It's mornings with Brian Haldane. Without Brian Haldane,
Haldane.
your favorite show of the year with Emily Chenevert, Rep. Emily Chenevert. I'm Dixon McMakin. Glad to have you in on this Monday morning, the Monday after the 2025 session. And
That's right. Good
Emily, this might be
morning.
a little tradition for us to come in here
I
and
think it should be.
talk session, talk life, talk finally getting some sleep over the weekend, hopefully for
What
you. I know I got some.
did you? Did you?
A little bit.
Well, look, we had a good weekend. Obviously, Father's Day. All the dads out there, I'm sure they had a great day yesterday. No, it was a good. It was. I feel like it's kind of you're running and gunning in session, and then you try to slow down, and it can be a challenge, right? Because you're just so much is happening, and then it comes to a screeching halt a little bit. So no, trying to find that rhythm a little bit post session.
I agree. I kind of woke up Friday. I was like, okay, what bills do I have today? What I need to go read? What 1,000 emails do we have in our email chamber laptop?
Yeah, still working on emails, following up with people, constituents, but no, it's
And of
good.
course, we'll jump into it a little bit too. A somber weekend as well as fellow
Yeah.
legislators up in Minnesota were viciously attacked and
Yes.
assassinated. And that also made it a unique weekend as well, having to re-go over my wife, our plans, our what should we do? Who would we contact? Where would we be? Most people, at least in my neighborhood, know where I live, know where I'm sure the same thing for
Same
you.
thing.
And
Yeah.
and what a time to live in that a state legislator was attacked and viciously assassinated.
I know. I was just thinking about so many people that serve in office from all the way from the top down, right? Governor down to local officials, and how just, your hearts and minds kind of think about those that sacrifice time to serve. And so it's a crazy time a little bit. And so I just was praying a little bit for those that serve and appreciate anyone that puts themselves out there for that. But no, it's a definitely interesting weekend. And so heart goes out to their families.
Yeah, Father's Day, of course, yesterday I got to spend it with my dad and my faux grandpa,
I
Skip
saw that.
Burtman.
I
So
saw that.
excited to see everyone calls them the big guys because dad's literally big and Skip is just, his
I mean,
personality is the
personality,
big
it's
guy.
Skip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you? How was Father's Day?
It was great. We did some. I told my husband, I said, "What do you want to do? I'm not
Wow.
gonna whatever you want to do." And so we, and then hung out with my dad last night, and mom made manicotti as another fellow Italian.
Ooh.
That's a good meal. And no, it was a great day. Church first, and then hanging out with the kids. And so my husband got to take a very long nap. On the couch, which dad did not. I'm sure every dad out there probably had a good nap. How was your Father's Day, John?
Oh, it was fantastic, fantastic. I didn't really nap as much, but it was a fun-filled weekend for sure.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. No, always love the day. I think dads deserve more than a day,
Oh, for sure.
right? I'm all about the week. Like when you have
Yeah.
a birthday, I say celebrate the week. So,
That's what I'm talking
maybe
about.
everybody listening, just give your dad a good week,
You've
right?
heard it here first, folks.
Yes.
Breaking news in 2026. Emily Chenevert is writing a law to make it Father's Week for the
Father's
state of
Week.
Louisiana.
And all the dads are cheering this morning.
Yes.
So no, they're definitely should be celebrated. Love our dads out there.
And we got a pretty cool show today. At least we think it's kind of neat. First hour, we're going to spend time going back and forth, kind of doing an internal interview here. Emily to me to Emily, talking about, as we are both freshman reps from Baton Rouge, how the session went, our first fiscal session, going through our different committees and what all that is. Then we're going to bring on the Attorney General, Liz Murrill. Excited to have Liz on as well because she had a great session of bills looking out to protect our consumers, protect everybody, and then probably talk with her a little bit about CVS and her cease and
Yeah.
desist letter. And then also maybe we'll touch on, if she has time, on Minnesota as well. And, she's someone as well that gets the threats as well and what
Yep.
that means for her. Then we're going to have Stephanie Brault, State Rep Stephanie Brault. We're going to talk to her about a bill that Emily and I both felt kind of went under the radar this
I
year
think so.
with her one door policy, which will be a really great interview for her. Then we're going to have kind of a double dip on this one. David DeLucci coming on the radio. He's actually in Omaha, but David is a councilman at large for the
Yep.
city of St. George, and he's also a great Catholic High grad, somewhat okay Ole Miss grad. Then played in the major leagues, World Series champion. He's up there covering the Tigers and covering everybody up in Omaha. So excited for that. And then we'll close it out with Will Green from Lobby, Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Talk about how he went to session for him and their group. Of course, Will's in year 2 as well. So he's been
That's
around the
right.
Capitol. He's been around the Capitol a good bit. He's former chair of the Auto Dealers Association of Louisiana, and he's got some experience as well. So hopefully it's a good, entertaining show for all you on this drive on a Monday morning. And we know the traffic will start to build up a little
That's
bit
right.
here. As we'll give you some traffic updates. We'll do this day in history at some point whenever John tells us we're to do that one.
That's right. Do this now.
And of course, as we usually do, we usually get off on tangents of random things.
Usually.
But that's,
It's part of it.
what more do you want? I mean, that's what Haldane does anyway, too. No one really listens for the actual show. It's for the little anecdotes that happen all the way between them.
I agree.
Yeah. What do you think? How's our show line up?
This is good. I'm looking forward to this.
I think so, right?
packed.
You know,
This is awesome.
little post session discussions on legislation and some things that are going on. And look, maybe we can even dive into it. I feel like there's always these little pieces of legislation that are really great, but because it's not in like a big package of things that we're focused on, and so we can maybe hit some of that people don't know about. So
That we both had, and I, I'm preview a question here for you, Emily. I want to know a piece of legislation that you might have handled or saw or whatnot that didn't make it through the process, and that you're looking forward to maybe continuing that next year. Because I know I have two answers already in my mind that they're going to be House Bill 5 and House Bill 6 because I'm going to file them so soon next year. So
awesome. Okay, so
something to think about.
We can get through.
Preview that for your interview coming up when we come back from this break in a little bit. So, John, we're getting close, right? 2 minutes, you said? Okay, so the 2 goes up on your hand. That means 2 minutes. It's been a while since we've done the show, so just checking.
I always appreciate
And then, of course, the half clock, 15.
I wish you could put the
everyone
Facebook on
him.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of.
Now we told everybody the secret. Now they know that we don't just magically know when we're going to commercial break, right? We would love that. That'd be amazing. No, hey, but we appreciate
behind the scenes,
a little behind the scenes of what goes on, and so no, it's going to be a great show, and I do think that as we get through some of this, hopefully people on Facebook, if they got any questions, they can kind of chime in a little bit, maybe about some of the bills that we're talking about. That's part of the process. That could be a good thing too. So if you have any questions there, we're happy to kind of look through that throughout the show and maybe try to answer that. If they got any
No
questions on
doubt.
that.
My mom's probably the only person tuning in right now. It's 6:12 in the morning. So Regina,
Your mom and
when
my
you're ready,
husband
yeah,
Shane.
yeah,
We know that Shane and Regina are listening.
My wife Beth, no shot, dead asleep. She's getting ready to go report later today, so no shot on that one. Big Wally, of course, your dad, my dad, Kappa Six together. So
that's right. They're probably listening in. They're proud dads.
Maybe.
There's a chance.
Yeah,
there's a chance, right, for that. So
better than zero.
Better than zero. That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
absolutely.
Maybe on Facebook. So no, but add those questions in there. Maybe we'll get to some of that today.
Yeah, we'd love to do that. So we'll take our first break. When we come back, we're going to be interviewing State Rep Emily Chenevert of District 66 right here live on Mornings with Brian Haldane without Brian Haldane.
Perfect. And the first thing you hear is Brian.
Yeah.
That's right. And without him.
Oh, my voice. Oh, my
I know,
God.
me too.
It's awesome. Shout out to Jamie if you're listening out there. My wife, Jamie.
Oh, there you go.
Listening.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's see.
We got the wild, crazy hair this morning. All right.
Yeah, it looks like the only thing Brian left me for today was Medical Monday. Yeah.
7:15.
Yeah, he told you? Okay, cool. Yep, other than that, that's pretty much, that's it.
What time is it? So we'll have Liz at what time again?
7.
Okay. And then Stephanie's at
7:30.
okay.
And DeLucci was 8.
I didn't get in touch.
Or, yeah, or Foyle. I didn't hear from them. DeLucci's 8:15. And then Will's 8:30, and he hopefully will be coming in. Told him it's better if he comes in. It's just a better interview.
100%.
So he'll go till 9. When do we normally do this day in history? When's this day in history normally?
8:05. Yeah, usually when we come back into the 8 o'clock hour.
Yeah, we might bump that one up to 6:45. We don't have anything the 6 o'clock hour.
Okay.
No one
I
wants
can
to
look
wake
something
up.
real quick.
Is it challenging? I'm trying to think if there's something else we can.
So we can do Emily when we come back. She'll do me after that. Then we'll do that one for that segment. We don't really have I don't really have like the times again. I just
Yeah. This will be around.
We come back at what time?
We could it'll be around 6:50, 6:52, I think.
great.
So yeah, if we end the hour with this day in history, that'd be pretty cool.
Um, we come back from this break at what time?
We're about to be coming back in about a little less than a minute.
I may just read it from Facebook. Chuck Owen had an interesting bill that no one talked about. That was pretty good.
All right. Whenever you're ready, just let me know.
I'm ready.
Oh, you ready? All right. Let's roll.
Welcome back, Baton Rouge, Louisiana Mornings with Brian Haldane. Without Brian Haldane, I love saying that so much, Emily.
I know.
So much.
It's kind of just, we have to keep saying it now.
As much as I love when he's here, he
I do
gets
too.
interviewed.
I
He does
do
a great
too.
job interviewing you.
Love
But
doing interviews
when
with
he's
Brian.
not here and we get to make fun of him a little bit, and John, do we even know where he is? I mean, not to ruin like the surprise.
know what?
feel,
Yeah.
but, like,
I'm not sure where he's at this morning, but
okay.
yeah.
You know, well, he's not here.
Yeah.
We know that. He's not in
Not
the
here,
studio.
yeah.
So it's just.
I feel like he asked us to do this like so long ago that I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. I was like, oh, it's the Monday after session.
Monday.
Gosh.
Monday. There's something
Ugh.
about that Monday. I don't know. I mean, you're a pro at this now, John. So
I
you're
don't
probably
know.
coming in, you're whistling, you're happy,
Yeah.
rocking and rolling.
That's it.
So it's good. It's good for you.
So for this segment, we're going to kind of do a little thing here. I know we're co-hosting, but we're going to take this opportunity as if Emily was a guest
Okay.
with Brian, and I'm going to be the Brian. And then when we come back, we'll flip it, and you'll
Flip
do
it.
the Brian thing to me. Of course, I
Okay.
won't be as tough as Brian is. Of
Please
course, I
don't,
know
yeah.
that he is
He's-
brutal when he does his interviews on us state reps. So, hey, I'm glad to have in today State Rep Emily Chenevert, District 66, which represents where again, Emily? Where is your district when it comes to the parish?
Yeah, so my district is Southeast Baton Rouge, really city of St. George area. So my district, obviously, since there's a couple reps that are in that area, in that region, but majority, like my area, when you look at the map of my district, it encompasses the boundaries, a lot of, majority of that area. So Southeast Baton Rouge, you're looking at areas of, University Club, south of kind of, within Burbank, up to Highland Road, south side of Highland Road, right there on the side of Country Club of Louisiana, Santa Maria, goes down to the Tiger Bend, Hoosiatu area, half of Shenandoah. So a lot of like White Oak Landing. I love like to tell the neighborhoods because I
Yep.
feel like people are like, okay, I know these neighborhoods. I grew up there. I know what's going on. So that's my area. And it's been, we just finished our second, not our full second year, but our, second regular session or fiscal session, but we've had multiple sessions. So I feel like we're getting through that freshman year.
So I didn't even realize that you have U Club Golf Course, Country Club Louisiana, and Santa Maria. So you have
I
three
do.
golf courses.
A lot of golf
Wow,
courses.
so you're ahead of State Rep Dixon McMakin. He only has 2 golf courses, and one of those is 9 holes. I don't know if that counts
It
at all.
may not
So,
count as much.
man, you got all the golf courses. So was just looking up here. You had 8 bills this session.
Yes.
2 of them have already been signed by the governor. So you have already made 2 laws. You have done it. You are a lawmaker again. And those 2 were for the provides relative to the membership of the boards of commissioners for the East Baton Rouge Communications District.
Yep.
And then provides relative to modified comparative fault.
Yes.
One of those seems bigger than the other.
a little bit. So one is more local, right? Our local bill. But I will say HB 431 was the bill that I think all of us, when we got into session, were focused so much on just litigation climate, insurance rates, and so was able to carry HB 431. Now I believe it is Act 15, and that is a big change in our tort laws, a change in the fault laws. And so that bill is it basically says if you're 51% or more at fault, then you cannot claim for damages. And so It is a big shift in the state over the last some of the biggest reform from what I'm hearing people say. Like
Right.
I really wasn't. I was I even born? Maybe a little toddler, but since like the 80s, the 80s. So it's a big deal, right? So I'm excited about that. It was a lot of work on both sides of the house to get that through the finish line.
And that's a pretty big deal. We're going to keep coming back to that pretty big deal, and we come back after this break right here
That's right.
live on Mornings
We'll
with
be
Brian
back.
Haldane without Brian Haldane. That was
That'll
quick.
be good.
That was quick.
That'll be good. We have more. We have more to talk about. Yeah.
Oh, we can fill this whole session with us, too.
We could-
I don't know why you just jumped straight to that one being the big deal. I really thought the commissioners of the EBR
Did you?
Communications District was the big. That's what I was going to get you on next. Like, didn't even ask you which one was the big deal. You just went straight for comparative
Straight to
fault.
the comparative fault.
Jeez.
That's the deal.
I had a lawyer reach out to me. He's like, you know what y'all should do? Just make a law. Get out of the car and fight each other.
That's so good. I kind of like that one. Maybe let me get you a mug. I can you pour your Diet Coke
Oh,
in
no,
it.
I'm good. I'm good.
Do a little Talk 107.3 matching.
That's why I brought Liz's thing in.
Oh, there you go.
I didn't want to dirty
Did you
it, though.
chill out at all this weekend? Did you relax? Try to take a sleep.
It was wonderful.
I did forget this
The
one.
honeydew list, though, was back. You know, that's back.
It's back.
We had a
Yeah.
pile of dirt in our backyard. She's for like 2 weeks been sitting there.
And you're like,
Get to it.
you're gonna get to it. Now you can get to it.
And you're like, and then if we go to the championship game for Omaha, I'm leaving Friday to go to that. So I'll be out all next weekend.
So, is she going? No, because
Just a fellas trip.
fellas trip.
Yep.
Got it.
I'll be honest, I don't even know what the heck the EBR Communications District is. But that was the one about.
So I would say that basically by law we have a comms district, and they asked me to carry that because of City of St. George to add a member, and the council appoints it. And so basically, it's not. It's in law, it's not for just someone in the City of St. George, but they will basically select someone the council will from that area, and that's all that I know. Really,
What do they do?
it's when I
I
was
feel like
talking
I
to them,
feel
it
like
was
I've heard
really
about
with
that.
more of the fire department. They were the
It's all like
tables.
it's all the
It's
of
all
that
the
stuff.
correct,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
behind the
that's
scenes of just what's going on within the cities and just communication to each
That
other,
kind, yep.
right?
And who has
So,
access to it? I remember was part of it. Like,
yeah.
I remember.
So it was a very simple, very basic. The big thing that I look forward to coming through. I mean, look, I had the dietitians. I had that one too, sent to the governor. It's gonna be active. May not get. Like, I don't know if it was a huge deal for him to actually do a big signing. It may just kind of roll into law. But it was dietitian compact. But then the other one was just like the parental one. I want to talk about that one heavily because I had a lot of discussions on that one. Where is it? HB 400. Relative minors' consent for medical procedures. Most people don't know in the state of Louisiana that we do not necessarily have a law for medical procedures for children. So
Don't worry, I've had 4 since the governor. He hadn't signed any of my stuff yet, so I have not made laws yet this year. Womp
last year,
womp. Womp womp.
womp,
Not
womp.
a lawmaker this year.
You are.
No, I'm not.
Well, if it rolls into, it can also roll into it.
Yeah.
Like without the signature, eventually.
I mean, last year I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 laws made.
Did you? I worked heavily also with the St. George Community School System, but it was Rick and I.
Yeah.
So that was a big one. It's Rick's bill.
We're back. We're back. We are back. We are back.
We are back.
We are back. Talk 107.3 Mornings with Brian Haldane. Without Brian Haldane,
Yes.
Emily Chenevert, Dixon McMakin taking you through the Monday morning, the Monday after the 2025 session, where most Louisianians feel we do our best work when we are not in session.
Oh, yes.
Someone told me that joke. They were
Did they?
like, yeah, you know what my constituents love? When I'm not here. Because they're like, you know what you can't do right now? Mess anything up.
Well,
I'm like,
you know.
come on. Jeez.
I know. Look, we're trying every day, one day at a time, one session at a time.
So-
And speaking of that, we can get into some more.
Yeah, we
legislation.
finished that last segment. We're coming back to now me acting like Brian, interviewing Emily. So she was on the comparative fault one, just jumped
Was.
right into that. So,
Right in.
of course, you'd have had some other bills as well that are pending governor's signature. So what are some of those that you are waiting for the big guy to put that pen to paper?
Well, one was HB 242 that basically, that one actually is now Act 165, and it was adding membership to the Board of Commissioners of the East Baton Rouge Parish Communications District. For those listening, all of our parish has to communicate when we have a lot, going on behind the scenes a little bit with the different departments and regions of the parish. We are a very large parish, So I was asked to bring that, and really, that's just more of kind of a formality within the law of just making sure we added another municipality and adding some more representation that will be handled by our Metro Council. And
Yep.
then there's another bill that I worked a little bit on trying to working with dietitians and doing a dietitians compact. And so there's a lot of states that have come together and work where they can work across state lines. It's very pro-veteran, where people that are within the military, they can sometimes, they get moved and they transfer different states. And so they're licensed if they're a dietitian. They can work in other states, but it's not just for them. It's for whoever that can, do. It was an interesting story about this was I had a great friend of mine who actually was she's a doctor, but also went back and now is a licensed dietitian, and was talking about during COVID when she was working with someone with LSU at the LSU Health Clinic unit on campus. When COVID happened, because of her license in Louisiana, they went back to Texas, and she was working with someone with eating disorders, could not really continue to do that as much because of the license issue.
Gotcha.
And so this is kind of a problem. They came to me about that bill, but it was interesting that I actually had a story connected to how this could help when people could work across state lines. And so, look, in Louisiana, we have a lot of compacts with different groups. And so I believe we had one prior, in the same committee with me, for dentists, I believe. But so we have the different ways that people just kind of can work across state lines. There was one thing that kind of got hung up in the process, I like to say, right? Dixon, there's a legislative process, and we do things maybe on the House side and then gets to the Senate side, or maybe it starts on the Senate, comes to the House. But was HB 400, which dealt with a minor's consent for medical procedures. And most people don't know that in Louisiana, that right now, and when it comes to a child wanting to get treatment, again, my bill did not hinder any form of, if a child was abused, all those factors were still in play. I was not changing that part of the law that we have to report and make sure those children are good, or anything with emergencies of obviously we treat with all, if there's an emergency situation, that's a different part of the law, did not touch any of that. But it was really just more for if a child just needs routine care, that parents are on the forefront in making those decisions.
Right.
Right now, a child could be considered the age of majority, even if they're 11 or 12, and an age of majority in Louisiana would be 18, right, an adult. So just put that into play. A lot of states have this. We don't. But it didn't make it all the way across. Look, it was kept tweaking it and worked very hard with a lot of different groups, LDH, Hospital Association, all these groups to try to figure out how to make sure we're protecting parents' rights, also making sure children are taken care of. So it almost got there. But, a lot of people say sometimes it takes a little bit more time than just a year to get some good legislation passed.
I remember talking to Speaker Philip DeVilliers about that. I went after he became the speaker. I've never met him. I'd never really met him, talked to him. So I was going back looking at a lot of his bills. And I remember being like, man, he didn't pass a lot of bills. Honestly, he didn't pass a lot. I was like, why each year you have a lot of bills, but not a lot of them are getting signed? He goes, look, that's what it takes. You got to run a bill one year, and then you see what maybe the fiscal note is. You see who comes to the table against it. You see where the hangups are. And then hopefully either you take it up or someone else takes it up or a new chairperson takes it up. And that's part of this process. I was actually going to ask you about the bill before that on dietitians that you had.
Yeah.
Just looking at that one and looking at the journal, which the journal is for us where the bill is in the process and what's going on. You went to the Committee on House and Governmental Affairs.
Yes.
Then you went to the House floor. Then you had to go to the Senate. Then it went to the Legislative Bureau. Then it came back to the House. Yeah. Then there were Senate amendments on it. Then you had to go to a conference committee.
Yeah.
Then we had to come back from a conference committee report, and then it went to the governor.
Right. And I think it's great that you say that. So for listeners, that it is a very strategic process. And and sometimes it feels like it's heard once or twice and then it passes. That's not always the case. You hear it once, you get in committee, maybe it's a very tiny amendment. Maybe it's just a word that maybe staff caught, but then maybe it is a line that has to be adjusted that could change a big portion of the bill. So maybe a group per se, not necessarily with this bill, but a group per se would say, oh, we liked your bill in its original form, but we saw an amendment was put on it right on the House floor, and now it's going to the Senate, or vice versa. And so now they're coming to the table saying, we're not sure. So then you go back to the drawing board. You can say, look, I want to voluntarily defer this, I want to come back next week, Mr. Chair, in committee. We've all heard that. So it is a process. I love the process. I love the deal making and the working kind of behind the scenes. I feel like people have said the sausage making a lot. I feel
Yeah.
like our governor says it a lot, but it is a process, and that is a legislative process that I have great respect for, and I think it makes the bill better long term.
Yeah, I mean, looking at on that bill, your amendment number 3 changed executive committee to executive committee. They
Right.
took out the capital letters.
Right.
So just taking out capital letters
Causes a change.
causes a chain reaction that then
Correct.
you have, and you also changed an and to an or. That was your amendment number 4. And it's not that the drafters are doing this to slow it down. They are also working their hardest to make sure that the bill is in the proper posture, as we say.
Yes.
Everything's there, looking good, because every bill, even after it's enacted, still has to go through the process to then make sure that it's all up
That's
and
right.
running. And we're running away with this show. It's already 6:30 in the morning. Brian Haldane, not here mornings without Brian Haldane.
Good deal. Right, you want to come back? No, that's not, and there's a lot going on in the world right now. Do you want to come back and do you, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, so Rick just texted. Rick can do the 6:52 time slot now. Rick
Oh,
Edmonds.
good. Yay.
So
Okay,
we can
great.
bump this day in history back to the regular. You said 80, 8:02, 8:05.
There's a lot to talk about.
And then, John, what's the number to send to the people that want to call in? What's the I had a lady yesterday. I love my CVS pharmacy. I'm like, that's great.
I mean,
Good for you.
I have a lot. Yeah, I've got my legislative assistant said she's been doing a lot of conversations and talking a lot to people about that.
Eccles. Yeah, he messaged me. He's gonna be tuning in today when Brault does hers. So I guess he's gonna be clipping some of Brault's stuff. Palermo said that, so that's good.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Still don't get who turned these TVs off. It clearly says do not turn off. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Who does that?
Probably Moon. Yeah, I was watching the game with Skip yesterday, and like a couple times he would say something like, "Ooh, good time to do this," and they would do it like every time.
Did he really?
Oh, it's just like I told him. I was like,
That'd be fun to watch.
I was like, they
a game
do
with
that
him.
Manning cast. I was like, they need to have a Burtman cast. Like, so many people would watch that.
Like, what a great person, like, to sit with and watch LSU baseball. Like, I feel like, it's like he's a legend. I feel like. All right, is there one that you prefer to talk about the most?
No, I don't. I'm not judging this, boss. This is your Brian Haldane moment.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Who's in ICU? Who did they just say? Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Oh,
saw
wow.
that. Let's talk Breck.
God, look how many HRs I did. Good God.
Is this was that HB 86?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. Because there was two bills, so that's what I want to figure out. Like I know there was not yours, and there was.
Chenevert's. I mean, your Chenevert. Ventrella.
Yeah, I mean I know the difference, but I'm just saying.
I told the governor's office he could veto mine if he wanted to. I was like, just veto mine. Make it fun for me. Only freshman rep to be back-to-back vetoed.
You told him.
Yeah. Oh, Dixon. I mean, you want me to veto it? Okay. Dixon.
But 554 is another one.
Yeah, that was a Liz one. That was a Liz one that Nancy joined,
Mm-hmm.
which was awesome. I was like, they both were sitting at the table. I was like, wow, we've come a long way in a year.
You've come a long way. But that's one of those ones that's interesting to That was, and also was your HB 586 Constitutional Convention.
That's my one. That's my where I had my question for you. That one next year's gonna be House Bill 5. It's already ready to roll. But
Like that's a good one. I want to talk that one.
yeah, Rick at 6:52. That'll be a quick interview. These times are so weird.
I know.
Like when you do Moscona's show, it's very much more like 15, 15, 15.
15.
I guess 13. I guess
But it does.
because
fall
Brian has all this other stuff in his. Like Moscona's show is very much like 15, 15, 15, 15, 15. Brian has like all more of this like other stuff.
Which is fine though because it's the earlier hour. I feel like it's like you need a lot of that. Um, yeah, and there's just so much around the world. I'll be honest, I get into the whole international stuff, and my brain can't turn it off. So
That
I've been watching.
makes
a
one
lot.
of us.
Huh?
Makes one of us.
Just
Someone told me the other day, like, you're gonna be the president of the United States. Like, no, I'm not. I couldn't tell where one of those countries is.
I just
No clue.
conflicts. The like, oh, how does this impact us? What's going on? What's happening?
Relief windows.
I haven't done an HR yet. I need to do. I haven't done.
Really?
Mm-mm.
No, they're just little things.
It's just more of a just a.
HCR is a big one. HCR actually you need to like take the time to get it through the process.
Yeah.
But
It's just more of like commending people of like.
and then I do the traffic ones, and like Chad Brown's like, you don't have to do an HR for every traffic you want done. I'm like, yeah, but I want backing that like says like, no, this came from us.
Yeah. No, that's smart.
That's just how I view it because it's like, hey, look, no, this is not just me. This came from all of us.
I do like your HCR 68 about the on Segan.
Yeah.
The off ramp.
They first told me like, I don't know if we can do that there. I was like, we do it at Hennessy in Essen. I promise we can do 3 turns on a major.
That'd be because like.
We're born ready, John. Good morning, Baton Rouge. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Without Brian Haldane, you're getting the raspy Dixon McMakin sinus voice
I don't know.
and state rep Emily Chenevert filling in for Coach Brian on this Monday after session.
That's right. That's right. Now we're moving over to. I am going to be Brian Haldane this morning as I'm welcoming my guest, Dixon McMakin. As we, I talked a little bit about my bills and what had gone on. And so let's talk a little session with some of the things that you worked on and things that you were, what are one of the things that you feel like leaving this session you're maybe most proud of, or maybe one that you really kind of took away that was like, this was a tough one, or one that you really had to go through the process that you're proud of?
Ooh,
You have a lot. I'm looking at the list.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff there. Once again, the traffic stuff with me. People know District 68, right in the middle of town. I have the I-10, I-12 corridor. I have every exit is part of my district from Segan, Bluebonnet, Essen, College, Acadiana, Dalrymple, Perkins coming back the other way. So a lot of interstate traffic. So I did 2 traffic ones, I think, that I'm really proud of. The Segan Lane off-ramp, which might be our 2 areas kind of right next to each other there. When you're heading towards Lipsy's, you're heading towards Mockler, you're heading towards Marucci's, small sliders, heading north. To have an extra 3rd turn lane there. Right now, that traffic backs up sometimes all the way to the interstate right there. And there's 3 lanes. So just add another lane. And I was really glad. I think WAFB did a story on it. She had great drone footage that really showed you where that problem is. And we currently have 3 turn lanes on Hennessy over by the hospitals. So I promise we can do it, Baton Rouge. I know I have faith in us to pull that one off.
Process.
And then, of course, what we're calling the drive resolution, the Department of Transportation's responsibility for I-12s vitality and efficiency. You're part of the I-12
Yep.
team as well. And so this one is one where I start I-12, Stephanie Brault, who we're actually going to have on at 7:30. She ends the I-12 corridor. Between there should be no merging. It should be 3 lanes the whole way through. No more of those stupid cameras that stop you before you get on the interstate.
That's right.
All that. And then we have 2 Clover intersections there. Airline's a Clover, and then I-12 at I-55 is a Clover. Clovers are outdated. Trucks flip over all the time. So what is it going to take to improve those 2 intersections as well? So we're putting that on the radar of the
And that one was
DOTD.
your. Do you remember which that?
That was
the-
HR 315, the very last
That's
one
right.
we did.
Yeah.
We were working on that one. We worked on that one actually all of session almost, and it made it just to the very end, working with DOTD on the language we wanted to put in there. It wasn't just me telling them to go stripe a line. This
Right.
one's a big task because we want to be shovel ready. When we have money to spend in the state, we are spending them on shovel ready projects.
That's right.
So let's get that project shovel ready. It really is. It's a project that's going to be a holistic approach, but put into pieces. If next time you're driving from Baton Rouge to Florida, if you're going on that trip, notice
Everyone does it.
Notice that interstate, how you're like, well, there's a concrete barrier in the middle, then it stops. It's 3 lanes, then it stops. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so let's finally get that corridor ready, because that is the stretch of highway. I-10 goes from Florida to California, but really it's I-12 that all those cars are on
Yeah.
when they come through Louisiana on the North Shore.
No, it's
So
a great.
excited for
great
that
one.
one. And then we got the Breck bill through. I'm excited for Breck.
That's what I want
and-
to talk to you about. Let's talk about that one. So those listening that maybe didn't hear that, because we talked about fiscal and insurance, but like that impacts the listeners in this region heavily. So talk about that. A
Yeah, a
little bit.
kid that grew up with Breck. I mean, I actually asked my mom if she had some of my old pictures back in the day with my shirts growing up over there, and someone that uses the park system, obviously all the time with Catholic High football, announcing that, and my Ancient Athletes group, just saw that we had an opportunity to be better. They talk about that gold medal award. I personally told Brian Haldane, he came on the show for an hour one day to talk about that gold medal is not what you think it is. No one came here to look at our parks. It was an application. 2 of the 9 pages were just talking about beating Bodie White's bill. And so it's not really what it is. But when people don't come here and see the park system, that 2 bills, I wanted to take the park system, put it under the city parish. I think East Baton Rouge, for some reason, we have more stuff in law. We actually just mentioned one of your laws, right?
Yes.
Think about that. Like,
Right.
why do we have so much? It's because we are the capital city. The capital's right there. We have too much stuff in statute. Through my career, I'm going to continue to try to push stuff
Yeah.
away from statute, let the locals handle it. But, we have a new city. When Breck was founded, whatever, the 70-something years ago, there was 1 city parish, 1 school board. Well, now we have 5
Right.
cities
Different
inside of our
independent districts, yeah.
parish. Now we have multiple school boards. So why is the makeup of the board still the way it is? So let's put each of those mayors or their designee on the council. Let's then put 4 appointees from the Metro Council, 2 of those from the city, the actual city boundaries, 1 of those from the unincorporated area,
Mhm.
and then 1 from wherever you'd like.
Right.
Then also we put it in there that the commission themselves can reapportion those 4 after the next census. So really, hopefully, if you think about it, we've built it to where we never have to come back and touch it again.
It's great.
And I'm okay with that. Do I still maybe want it under the city parish out
Right.
of law? Yeah, there's
But
still
it's
that.
in a better place.
There-
you
yeah, there's
feel
still
like.
that little
Yes.
piece of it, because what I felt was every time you saw something bad about Breck, it was one of the cities arguing with Breck. And so the idea was, hey, let's put you all at the table. Let's get it done. If you're going to argue, do it in the meeting.
Do it in the meeting.
Do it publicly. Have it out. Not write a letter like, hey, I'm trying to get this data. I can't get it. No. You're at the table
You're
now.
at the table now.
You're in charge. Go make it happen. And I really think there was some pushback on that bill, how it originally was written, just the 5 mayors or the 5 families, as we've come to joke now of Baton Rouge, but it's where we are. It's where we are as a parish.
That's right.
Let's accept that and move on.
That's good.
We can talk about that another time too. I wish our last mayor president had accepted it and moved on.
Yeah.
But of course, that fighting we did, and we're seeing some of the ramifications of that. So excited for that one, and we'll continue to do that. And one thing I was going to ask you, sorry, I'm flipping it on you now,
No, it's
but
fun.
on your bill and on my bill, those are both, we've mentioned it, local bills.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you hear from people, well, you only have 5 bills. Why are you wasting a bill with one of your 5? But to let y'all know, local bills don't count against us.
Right. Especially on that fiscal session. You're right. It doesn't count.
And so don't think of it as we wasted one of our bill opportunities. The municipal committee is actually probably more busy in a fiscal session because
Yeah.
people can use those local ones
They can.
and they're not part of their 5. than they are in the regular ones. So that's why I did that, and excited as a kid that uses Breck, as a kid that grew up in Breck. I'm excited for the opportunities now to hold them accountable and to have all the mayors in the room. We're waiting for the governor to sign that one, and as soon as he signs it, I'll be heading to the committee and be like, "Hey, welcome into the new committee. Y'all are sitting at the table now. Go fight amongst yourselves.
That's good.
Go fight amongst yourselves. I'll give you the topic."
And look, and it really should. It's important that everyone's at that table and that those local voices are speaking into
Yep.
it. And so I think it's critical. That's why local bills do matter. Some people say, "Why in the world do you have to go to the state to do a local?" It's like, this is just the way we have it in Louisiana. This is the law, and so there's a reason that we do it this way. We don't. That's just it's part of the process.
Yep.
That's like we always say. Well, is there another one in wrapping up this little section for a few more minutes? Is there something else that you feel like that maybe didn't get? I know we were talking about. There's another we were talking about. Again, I love your attention to the interstate. Love your attention to infrastructure because of where you are. We talked about Breck. Is there anything else that you look at that I know you carried one that was really supportive by our AG and I believe Secretary of State? Correct? Wasn't there?
Yes, well, we're going to have our Attorney General on at 7, Liz
Okay.
Murrell, House Bill 554, which was a notice of voting restriction on your driver's license. That was one that was so great. I had at the table in the Senate, I had the Attorney General and the Secretary of State, Nancy Landry, both at the table supporting a bill, which was awesome. I mean, like they are, Nancy Landry, our Secretary of State, lives in my district. Liz Murrell lives right outside the district, so I count her as a half member, because we do travel in the same roads and see each other a lot. And that was one that when you get your driver's license, if you are not able to vote, there really is no distinction on that license right now. And so people would just give them voter registration cards. Hey, this is how you go register to vote. And they were sending those in. So what we're trying to say is, no, now when you have that license, it's a clear indication you are not eligible to vote. So don't give them a voter packet. Then let's say they maybe just show up. That does happen. People hear about elections and they just show up. When they show their ID card, the person working that booth is now going to say, no, look, right here it says you're not eligible to vote. So that's why you can't come vote. So it's a good just cleanup bill, and to have both of their supports was pretty awesome. Emily, it's awesome being with you. It's awesome not to have Brian Haldane here this morning. And when we come back, we're going to continue as we're going to have Senator Rick Edmonds calling in
That's right.
to have a senator on Mornings Without Brian Haldane. My student council kids will love that transition. Man, look at this. I just noticed this thing. I need to start doing my daily Dixons with that guy.
What a little. Yeah, I have a smaller version of that.
It's got the 3 holders.
I know. That's. All right. Let me go get.
Okay, Mom, Emily.
Yes.
If I were to tell you that one of my wrists hurts more than the other, which one do you think it is? Does either one of them look swollen? Wrong answer. Okay, never mind.
Really?
Yeah. I go to the doctor this week.
Where does it hurt? Right there.
Well, this thing, like, it doesn't. None of this hurts. It's like when I do certain things.
Oh, like a little carpal maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hopefully our state insurance covers it.
yes, I would think. I have a Duchenne's company, so I didn't add it, but I did the dental though. And I'm about to have to get. I chipped a tooth over the weekend. Very back. A little chunk came out, and I was like, oh, that's not good. Got to go to the dentist.
I'm actually going to the dentist today. He's gonna talk about if we're gonna do Invisalign or if we're just gonna put bonding on these to cover that like gap.
Oh yeah,
So,
I've had them crunched.
I hate
Get
it.
close together. I have one higher than the other. I want to do Invisalign. My sister did Invisalign, and it definitely worked. I'm curious with dental if it'll. Oh, I see it flashing. That must be Rick.
So how long? He'll go from 6:52 all the way to 7. Okay. That'll be a quick one. Rick can talk.
Yep, it'll be.
are you most proud of this session? I got you.
He's going to talk about it too.
Walter Beach says, "Thank you for your service. Good morning, EMS reform in the house."
Mm.
So yeah, shout out to Walter.
I'm excited. Not excited. I'm glad they caught that guy in Minnesota. Like, we need to figure out what exactly went down with this guy.
The manifesto has been found. The question is, are they going to release everything? Minnesota said they're not going to release it all, and I'm like, they should. I mean, it's pretty scary. I just texted Terry earlier, and I was like, thank you for what you do. Appreciate after the email was sent out. It was like, I mean, I didn't call anybody and get a plan, but Shane and I talked about stuff.
I mean, we were going. I went through the email with Bess. That's what I did. And talked about do you have your sheriff and your police chief's number? I was like, okay, yes, check, okay. And I didn't have the state police number on my phone.
I didn't either.
Yeah, so that was. Never on the next break. I had to tell you about. I don't think I've ever told you the story. My Godfather story at our house.
Oh, please.
When we
tell me
first
the story.
when we
This
first
sounds-
moved
This
in.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, so it's not for air. It'll be just for us.
For Facebook?
Yeah. No, not for Facebook. Just us. Just us three. Yeah, just us three. Just us three.
Anytime someone's going to have a good Godfather story, strong chance. It's just, you never know, right? Maybe not. Maybe it's not. All right, I'm going to pull up Senator Edmonds' bills, too.
Welcome back. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Without Brian Haldane, Dixon McMakin, Emily Chenevert hold down the
morning.
fort. The Monday after session has ended, and we're now honored to welcome in Senator Rick Edmonds, who's on the road this morning. Senator, can you hear us?
Good morning. How are you guys?
There he is. Great.
Doing well.
Great to be with you. And Senator, we got you for about 7 minutes, and 7 minutes for you is not long enough to talk about all the great things you did this session. So really just open-ended for you. What are you most proud of about this session, and what are you looking forward to for the people of Louisiana?
Good morning, two of my favorite folks. I hope you guys do. I hope you had a great Father's Day. And 7 minutes, you're right. I can't say hello in 7 minutes. I'm proving it right now. Look, I can't help but not lead with the formation of the St. George Community School District.
Yeah.
Guys, that's been going for almost 15 years. Folks that are just so interested in investing in their children. And I'm so excited for those folks that have worked so hard. It was a tough fight. Took us several months. Representative Chenevert, my co-author, was right by my side, and we had to sweat it out. Dixon, the last vote to get 70. It's a 2/3 vote. It's a tough one, man. That 70 is hard, but we're excited to get it, and now we look forward to going to the ballot in April, statewide. Has to be approved and locally as well. So we got quite a bit of work to do, but I'm very happy for the people for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We were all in there. It takes on those constitutional amendment votes. I was sitting in the back kind of trying to tell people, hey, no, this is not a bathroom break time. This is get your butt back in that chair. Let's see where the votes are, and really good stuff. And something Senator Emily and I talk about when we're on the show is kind of how the process works, right? That, we handle bills for you on the House side. You help us on the Senate side.
Yeah.
And having those relationships with our senators is so important to help get legislation through the process, and you've been a House member, now a Senate member, really have an expertise that we rely on as freshman reps. So what's that been like for you, kind of now being the mentor side of things to people like us?
Well, this was a bumpy session, and I'm glad to see you guys so active. I know, Emily, we had one of your bills in Jude A that was, we hope that the governor signs was, a real pivotal kind of bill. And I find myself on a committee where there's basically a 4-3 vote on every vote. And boy, I'm telling you, you're talking about tight. All those bills we passed out. In fact, you were in there in my committee that day.
Yeah.
And I think we had 6 or 7, maybe 8 bills, and we had to literally swap in and out trying to run our bills to make certain that we could keep getting 4-3 vote. And we, unfortunately, that day we did get your bill out. It was we're just waiting for a signature.
Yeah, it is. The process is like one of those things I tell people all the time behind the scenes. While we're in committees, while we're also, bringing our bills to committee, we also have to be in a committee to vote. And so it's the process of going back and forth and making sure that we're doing our due diligence of recognizing at what point a bill's coming up, and then at what point we need to be in that chair to vote. And so, yeah, I was definitely in your committee on that. It was a big bill, I know, for part of our insurance reform. But it was just great working with you, Rick, and everybody on the Senate side to get so much of this done.
I appreciate that. I had long conversation with Speaker Pro Tem Mike Johnson, my good friend from Pineville, and he's Pineville Mike Johnson, by the way. So it's in my phone. So since we have 2 Mike Johnsons in Louisiana, I have Pineville Mike Johnson, and I talked to Mike prior, and he was real nervous about those bills, and I said, look, we are going to run those bills. We're going to pass them. I think there was sort of this idea that the Senate was going to block all these insurance bills, and that was never a reality at all. I think you guys are pretty aware that I serve on insurance and on Jude A, and several weeks ago we started getting digital text and emails that were just slamming us about that the senators were going to block all this insurance reform, and that was never true. We were just waiting for you guys to get them over. I think we passed almost every one of them that in every category area. I know we didn't pass everything, but I think we passed a bill in every category area. We were really on board, but a lot of people thought we weren't. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, it's part of it's like part of the process of working together on that and getting there. But hey, at the end of the day, the great part is that so much came out, and it's incredible to see it getting, signed into law, especially for the people.
Yeah, Senator, that comes from just, national groups and others that don't know how we operate, what we're doing in the building. That's where I think it comes from we all get thousands and thousands of emails every day while we're in session. While we got you for this final minute here, Senator, what are you most excited for now that session has ended? Back to the grind, and then what are we looking forward to? Maybe a preview of Rick Edmonds' next session coming up of let's get rolling. We're ready to get back to work.
Well, last year we passed the LA Gator for all the state, and we were not able to fund it to where we'd like to be. I'm very disappointed about that, but I've already met with Senate President Cameron Henry, and we sort of agreed to work together to try to find some common ground. So I don't know if I don't want to suggest I'm going to have to rewrite the bill, but I do think that probably I'm going to have to put some stipulations in there so that I can get some movement on that, so we can get some funding. We had almost 40,000 people make successful applications this past spring, which was amazing. I couldn't believe we had that many. So I'm going to work on that in the off season. That's my number one priority, to try to get this some kind of common ground so we can get this thing rolling, get some kids involved, and really make a difference for some of our parents and our families.
That's great, sir. And I think Emily and I will back you all the way on that one. We signed that one into law, and just provides an opportunity for our young people to go to the school of choice they want. If they don't like where they are, let's open it up and get them all out there. Well, Senator, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Right.
Safe travels if you're on I-12 this morning. Hope you enjoy the Drive Act that we put in place to try to improve that infrastructure. Rick Edmonds, also a member of our I-12 coalition that we're starting to get I-12 up and running. Senator, hope you have a great summer, and we will see you soon, my friend.
Thanks for joining us.
Hey, love you guys. Appreciate you. See you soon.
Thank you, Senator. That's Senator Rick Edmonds, of course, former House member, now Senator. And really, I don't think people can quite understand that when you have that relationship with your senators. If you're watching our videos, you'll watch Philip DeVilliers say all the time, please go get with your
Your
senators.
senator.
Please make sure that your senator knows
That's
what
right.
you're doing.
That's right.
I know my two senators are Franklin Foyle and Rick
Yep.
Edmonds, and
Me
I've
too.
had no trouble
That's
them
right.
checking up on
That's
me,
right.
making
Same
sure
thing
that,
with me. Yeah.
that everything's getting through the process. So we're getting through to our next break. When we come back, Attorney General Liz Murrill will join us live on Brian Haldane in the morning. Without Brian Haldane.
Without Brian Haldane. Okay, tell us the story.
Okay, so you ready? Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
thanks.
testing. Yep, we're good. All right.
She had 12 bills on her packet.
Where do you find her list? What
I
are you
went to her Facebook
Oh, you
page,
just went to her. Okay, right. Oh, that's true. Okay.
and then she.
I didn't know if you were looking inside here somewhere that it was
Oh
like.
no, that'd be pretty awesome if we could add that.
I know.
Like I do it. I do that just on my ledges. You know, like I have a
Yeah, my
tab for them.
assistant does that. She's good at that. She did it. I have her. She does it now.
That makes such a difference when you're sitting there. You can just
Oh,
like a bill
100%.
comes up, you're like, oh, this is one of those. Oh, okay. My ledges categories are so funny. Caller wants to know. Haney, yes. Lobby, no. Lobby, yes. LeCag, yes. Lily Freedom, no. LMTA, no. Yes. Secretary of State, Chenevert. You had a category. Watch list from Peeps. I do like. I wish there was more buttons to choose. But like on a good day, it looks. I mean, it looks like a pack of Skittles.
She's starting to. She's like. She just started that this year, and she's like, "Hey, now that I know how to do it, she's like, I'm gonna really play. I'm always just like, what emails am I getting the most of from my constituents? That's the biggest thing. And it was like that. The bill that it was like
I don't get any. Yeah,
those two.
that's how you know it's fake when you get all the fake emails.
Mm-hmm. I love that song always.
Welcome back. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Without Brian Haldane, Emily Chenevert, Dixon McMakin holding down the fort while Brian is away. And we are honored now to welcome in our Attorney General, Liz Muriel. Attorney General, good morning to you. How you doing?
I'm great. It's good to be with y'all this morning.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Doing well.
We got a good 10 minutes with you here, and we're excited to talk about kind of the legislative session that you had. That might sound weird to people, but the Attorney General also every year now is bringing a legislative package, and Emily and I talked about it a second ago, one of the bills I brought. But Attorney General, what was kind of your theme or your ideas going into this session with I counted 12 different bills that you got through the process this year?
Yeah, I actually think we got 14 through, Dixon,
14.
and it was, we had a great session. I think we just have a lot of ideas from all of the work that we do across state government. And I encouraged the directors in my office to put those bills in front of me so that I could kind of hand them off to you guys. And we had a great, very successful session. And, I think the top bills I would say were yours. The bills that I had on post-conviction relief reform, electronic monitor reform, and consent decree reform were kind of some really big ones.
And that was one, I would say the consent decree one, Attorney General, was one that, being a fake lawyer that I am, but I don't work in the criminal field or the state field too much, but those really fascinated me, was the different aspects of those. So if you could just touch on that for a second, so our listeners, all 5 of them, including Emily's dad and my mom, could learn more about consent decrees this morning and why that was so important for the state of Louisiana.
Well, it was interesting because a lot of the debate centered around the bill. I think that the bill was attempting to be mischaracterized as something that was like a power grab for the Attorney General. In fact, it's just the opposite. It prevents individual officers in local or state government from signing us up for these long-running consent decrees that take away power from elected officials in the future and cost taxpayers millions of dollars. So it now requires that any kind of agreement, and remember, these are by consent, they are settlements, they would have to be approved by the governor and the Attorney General before they could sign us up for anything that has future-looking tentacles. So, you can settle your case if you're a local government official, but what you can't do is sign up future government officials to your consent decree.
Yeah, kind of what we talk about all the time with our Constitution and other things. Let's not put handcuffs on us and restrict us into the future. You might have a good idea, and then you come back and like, whoa, wait a minute.
Right.
No, this one group of people signed this. Like, well, why'd they do it? What happened? You're like, I don't know. I'm not sure.
And there was a debate on the floor about a bill that Debbie Villio was discussing, and it too related to ICE and immigration and local governments that obstruct ICE, which predominantly has occurred in New Orleans. And Candace Newell kept talking about this consent decree, and the bill would conflict with the consent decree. Well, first of all, it was by consent. It was put in place in 2013 by a prior sheriff. I'm suing over it because it also conflicts with a Blake Miguez bill from last year, and they are opposing getting out of it. So, it makes no sense that these people can enter into a consent judgment, bind future elected officials, and then try to hide behind that agreement in federal court and say, oh, but there's a consent decree. No, we need to dissolve those decrees, and you need to be able to make laws that make sense.
Yeah, I love that one so much. And another bill I wanted to touch with you on, Attorney General, was one that really passed through pretty easily this year. But now that we're seeing your office get more involved in New Orleans and everywhere else, don't know why I just said New Orleans like that, but that just came out of my mouth weird.
It was a little different. It's totally fine, though.
Oh, what time is it? That's just past 7. Okay. Rep Bayham's House Bill 303, which was a fugitive apprehension unit, and I think that group's already been put into place and used. So if you could talk on that one a little bit, I think that's one we're going to hear more about in the future as your office is taking a more active role around the state.
Yeah, that bill simply codified a group that's been operating out of our LBI unit for over 30 years, and they provide extra assistance to task forces, federal and state, and law enforcement across the state. They've been very actively involved in apprehending the 10 fugitives in New Orleans from the jail. They still are, and we get called into service for a variety of different things. And so all we were doing there was making sure they were recognized by statute. And that's going to help us in the future, I think, just when we enter into MOUs with other law enforcement, including ICE.
Yeah, it was something. Mike Bayham sits on the back row with me, so I would hear him come chat by my back of my head a few times about that bill as well, which I enjoyed. I knew that it was a good one for all of us. So you mentioned the post-conviction relief by Rep. Glorioso. Rep. Mike Johnson helped you. I had a bill. Senator Miguez, Senator Cloud, Rep. Wright. Does this mean when you choose reps and senators to handle your bills that they're your favorite reps and senators? Just personal question, I guess.
Well, you're my favorite now, Dixon, because you're not trying to take my property away from me up in the Capitol anymore. But it definitely is a reflection of people that we trust to carry those bills, and I hope that we have a lot more in the future. We just kind of already getting ready for the next session and making sure that we're preparing and want to be able to offer you guys some ideas and things that we think would make good law. And so we're constantly in that process.
Yeah, that's something Emily and I have been hitting on all morning, that even though the session just ended Thursday, this is the first Monday after session. I know I'm already getting people hitting me up for next year of, hey, we want this done, we want that done, and looking at the time of everything. So as we spend a few more minutes with our Attorney General, Liz Muriel, thank you for joining us this morning. What is the rest of the half of the year left in 2025 look for you? I know usually you're out in the country as a leader in the Attorney General space, speaking and teaching other people. And what are your plans?
Well, we're waiting right now for an opinion to come out on redistricting.
Right.
That could come out this week. So that's a pretty big deal, and potentially could require you to go back into session. So I'll be watching for that. Lots of other things happening. I mean, going to continue to work with our DAs and our sheriffs. I'll be meeting with them more this summer. We've been recruiting sheriffs into our ICAC unit. That's the Internet Crimes Against Children. And we work with sheriffs in making sure that we are pursuing tips on child predators across our state. And my goal is to have 100% of the sheriffs assigned, kind of aligned with us in that program and partnering with us in that program. And we're about 50% there. So I've had a whole lot more join me since I took office, and I'd like to see that at 100%.
I'll ask you, just this something just popped in my head, Attorney General, real quick, as you were there in the office when Jeff Landry was our Attorney General. Now you're the Attorney General. Emily and I, as rookies, we're in year 2 with you. Really, we're all in year kind of two,
yeah,
together. What are you kind of taking from your previous experience with your expertise now into your current role? Like, what did that experience help you with as you sat in the real chair, the big chair now, and are the AG? That just kind of popped in my head as we're all in year 2 and finishing our second full session together. What kind of was that experience so useful? I see it, but just to explain to our listeners at home.
Well, Dixon, I think, there is no doubt that all of my experience in litigation against the state, especially in federal court, has informed a lot of my judgment about, our role as a state and interaction with the federal government. And it also kind of helps me to craft good legislation. That's how we ended up with not just the consent decree bill, but a couple of other bills that we have pending and that passed. So, I think that experience as a lawyer and just in appellate courts in the United States Supreme Court always continues to make a difference for me as Attorney General. And I just kind of like to bring that to the table, that I have probably more experience litigating as an attorney than most attorney generals in the past, which is not, they all come from different backgrounds. It's not It's not saying anything negative about the experience they brought to the table. It's just that that's mine, and I think it makes a difference in my role when I sit in that chair.
Yeah, and we feel the difference as well. I know, honored to have you come testify when
Yeah.
I was helping your bill this year. It's pretty cool to have you and Secretary of State Nancy Landry there for me, and as people that vote in Baton Rouge, special place in my heart, trying to make y'all proud, and you making us proud. And we hope you have a great summer, and we'll be tuning in more. And I know Brian would probably love to have you on when those Supreme Court judgments come in, as
Yeah.
we're all waiting to see.
Waiting to see.
Yep, all waiting to see. All right, well, y'all have a great week. It's been great to be with you this morning.
Thank you. That's our
Thank
Attorney
you.
General, Liz Muriel, doing a fantastic job for the people of Louisiana. When we come back, we'll have Medical Monday here live on Brian Haldane. So we don't do anything for this, huh? It's all, we just sit back, relax, take a nap? Heck yeah.
Pretty much. And that's on at what time exactly?
This next segment. And that'll go till...
So then she'll come on. I feel like that 8 o'clock hour flies.
We're going to have to clip that. I'm her favorite rep part.
You need to click that. Especially after last year.
It's time for your weekly checkup. This is Medical Monday, presented by Our Lady of the Lake Health.
Dr. Chastain, welcome back. It has been too long, sir.
Yes, sir. Brian Haldane, thank you so much for having me on the show. I love it when you ask me to do this, especially on days when we find out the Tigers are going to Omaha.
Right? Exactly. Yes. And that's, well, I was going to make a horrible, like, cardiac arrest joke right there because it would lead us into our conversation. But when you win by multiple runs on back-to-back nights, it's not really cardiac anymore. They had this one in the bag. So let's talk.
All right.
Okay. We've heard you speak about heart attacks in the past quite a bit, but what is the difference between cardiac arrest and a regular heart attack? Sudden cardiac arrest, it's different. Tell us how.
It's different. You think about a regular heart attack as the one you see on TV. It talks to you. You're having chest pain. You say, Brian, I think I'm having a heart attack. Take me to the emergency room. I'm awake. I'm alert. I'm talking. A sudden cardiac arrest, by definition, is sudden, and it comes on without warning at all. The difference is heart attack number one, the regular heart attack, has about a 75% survival rate if you can get me to any emergency room anywhere. The second heart attack, a sudden cardiac arrest, has a 9% survival rate, and that's why we need to identify the person that's going to have one.
How do we do that?
It's tough because in the first heart attack, we talk about prevention of heart blockage. In the second heart attack, the sudden cardiac arrest, the one we're talking about this morning, we have to assume the victim already has coronary artery disease because the mechanism is, ironically, a 40%, 50% blockage that doesn't bother you, doesn't talk to you, doesn't cause chest pain, suddenly ruptures and causes the sudden cardiac arrest. So our emphasis has to shift on finding the individual that already has the blockage. And that means typically cardiac imaging. And we can talk about that in a minute. But what I want to say is standard stress test that everybody talks about will not identify the person who's going to have a sudden cardiac arrest. And that's why you hear people who suddenly die, a story like, hey, well, he just saw his doctor 6 weeks ago and had a stress test and did fine on it.
Right.
That's because these lesions that cause the sudden cardiac arrest don't typically cause problems until they break open and rupture.
We're talking with Dr. Curtis Chastain about sudden cardiac arrest as part of Men's Health Awareness Month, actually, for our Medical Monday segment, which is, of course, presented by Our Lady of the Lake. You said 9% survival rate on sudden cardiac arrest. Okay, let's talk about, as best we can, how do we determine who's most at risk here?
Well, let's take a step back, how common this is. This is the number one killer of people in this country. Number one killer, 356,000 people die every year of this. To put that in perspective, that is 5 Boeing 737s fully loaded. All 5 of them crashing and killing everybody aboard, all 5 planes, every day. Every day. But yet we kind of cast it off and don't think too much about it because, sadly, we don't hear much about it because it just suddenly happens.
The sudden part is the part that I think should, get everybody at least not afraid, but at least alert. Is it, when you talk about sudden, like there's little pains and little things that go on in your body on a regular basis anyway. Are there any of those warning signs that we need to be paying attention to?
Of course, they can be. They certainly can be. In fact, there was a huge study done on survivors of sudden cardiac arrest. And remember, there's not many of them, but they cobbled together survivors of sudden cardiac arrest, and over half of them were having symptoms up to a month prior to their event, and they never told anyone. Typically, because they can be very subtle.
Right.
A chest pain here or there, a palpitation or a fluttering of your heart here or there, a near passing out spell, that you discount and don't think too much about it. But as it turns out, it was your body talking to you and telling you this thing was about to happen.
And all of those, they all sound like, classic symptoms of other things that are nothing as well. I think it's probably why they're ignored.
And like we talked about, typically the victim of sudden cardiac arrest, we know the victim of sudden cardiac arrest already has coronary blockage. And one more little statistic for you. 40% of the people that die of a sudden cardiac arrest, their first symptom that there was something wrong with their heart was they dropped dead. And I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not trying to get people all revved up, but it's a different problem than traditional heart attacks where there's a little blockage. Ooh, I have chest pain. You go get a stent. You go get a bypass, and you're okay. If you believe that you have coronary artery blockage, and how would you know? Well, your dad had it, or your brother had it, or you've been told that you have it already. Mm-hmm. If you're that person, you need to be assessed. And you alluded to it earlier. You have to go have a test called a CT calcium score. The CT calcium score. It's a simple CT scan. It takes 7 minutes. And what it does is it x-rays your heart and looks for calcification. What's calcification? Calcification is the foundation, if you will, like you have a foundation of a house. It's the foundation of a heart blockage, and it lights up like a Christmas tree on a CT scanner. And if you've got heart blockage, if your CT calcium score shows blockage, you're at risk for a sudden cardiac arrest.
And this is the cardiac imaging you were referring to earlier?
Yes, sir. It's sadly enough, the insurance companies won't pay for it, but it's about $100. It's about $100. What a heck of an investment to find out if you're at risk for this horrible thing, and you actually can do something about it to prevent it from happening.
Okay, let's talk about what happens once it's found. Let's say you take the CT scan, you find that the calcium score is not where you want it to be. What do we do then?
We get on high-dose cholesterol-lowering medication that gives you a dramatic reduction in risk of having the heart attack, about 27%. If you're a businessman and somebody says, I'll give you a 27% return on your money, you'd take it all day long, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm sorry.
So
Continue. Stepped in.
So once you know you're the guy. Once you know that you've got the potential for blockage, you get on medication. We lower your risk. We lower your cholesterol level very, very low, which gives you a 27% reduction in having a sudden cardiac arrest. And then that's what we do. And then if the calcium score is bad, really, really, really bad, we can do other tests, like we can do other imaging tests to see how bad it is. But typically, we're finding an asymptomatic individual who now finds out, I've got some blockages in my heart. I need to get on cholesterol medicine immediately and reduce my risk of having a sudden cardiac
I'm
arrest.
sorry. I'm going to jump in real quick. Dr. Chastain, we're going to put you on hold real quick. John's going to pick up. Your voice keeps digitizing. I think we have a bad, you're on a bad line right there. All right, Dr. Chastain?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
No. That's way better now. Way better now. And what you were feeding us, I wanted everybody to eat because it was really good stuff. I just didn't want it all digitized and lost in translation.
Okay.
So we're picking back up with where we left off, and basically what I was asking is once that calcium score is found to be not where we want it to be, and you said you put them on cholesterol medication, and then
that reduces your risk of having the sudden cardiac arrest by about 27%.
Right.
And that's really the only hope you have at that point. Now, if the calcium score is really, really, really bad, and it shows a lot of calcification, which implies that you've got a lot of blockage, there's some additional tests that we can do to learn the extent of blockage. And some people we actually refer them to a cardiologist immediately for other treatments. But the key is to find the person who's not having any symptoms, nothing's bothering him. Find that person that has blockage now and get them on the medication now.
Can we reverse course here? Like once you have the calcium buildup, is the calcification just where it's going to be, or can you actually reverse course?
The calcium never goes away.
Yeah.
Just like you see a house that burns down, you always see the slab still there. The calcium never goes away. What is blocking the artery is the part that sits on top of the calcium, which is full of cholesterol, and that could be a 20% blockage up to a 90% blockage. But what we're hoping to do, and you ask a great question, can we reverse blockage? There are some studies that show if you can lower cholesterol ultra low to an LDL level of 50 or below, you can actually reverse some of the blockages. But that doesn't guarantee that they're not going to rupture anyway. But what the cholesterol medicine does, and I want to be clear with this, it's not just about lowering the cholesterol. The cholesterol medicine hardens those plaques so they're less likely to rupture. And that's the key.
We got Dr. Curtis Chastain on with us for Medical Monday talking sudden cardiac arrest. Doc, let's move from testing and prevention over to what to do if the worst happens. If someone collapses and might be having a cardiac arrest, what should a bystander do?
Bystanders should call for help immediately. Get someone to call 911 or call 911. That's key. First thing, call for help, call for 911, and then look for an AED because this is an electrical problem. This is not a blockage problem per se. It is an electrical problem at this point. And the only thing that's going to save that individual is a shock that can be delivered by an automatic external defibrillator. And a lot of places have them hanging on the walls these days. All you got to do is get to the patient's chest, put the pads on, turn the machine on, and it tells you what to do.
Got just a couple minutes left with Dr. Curtis Chastain. I want to go back to who is at risk and who should be on the lookout. And you mentioned, about bloodlines and what if you come from a family that's had heart attacks, that doesn't necessarily mean like, okay, if your dad had a heart attack but not sudden cardiac arrest, the heart attack's the precursor here for the genetic end, right?
Right. The heart attack, and the only thing you're using is your like you said, your gene lines. If your father and brother had heart attacks, you're more at risk for having a heart attack. In fact, it's about 5 times greater than normal of having a heart attack yourself.
Wow. Okay.
And look, again, I'm not trying to scare people. Just because your dad had a heart attack doesn't mean you're going to have a heart attack. But what we're talking about is an ambush. What we're talking about is you becoming the hunter. And if you are at risk, as evidenced by a first-degree relative with heart disease, you have to become the hunter, and you have to go look for coronary disease as opposed to waiting for it to come to you.
Doc, we got about a minute left here. I want to squeeze in one quick question that came in from the Facebook live chat. Someone asked what happens if you're allergic to cholesterol lowering meds?
There are so many different options out there. Just because you're allergic to one, and typically it's not an allergy, it's a reaction where people can't tolerate it, one. But there are 5 or 6 very good cholesterol lowering meds, and there are even injectables now that we can use. So we can work around that.
Where do folks go if they want to learn more? I mean, it's obviously there needs to be a call to attention to this. Where do we go from here?
I would have anyone that's listening to this that feels like they need to know, call your primary care physician and ask for a calcium score, a CT calcium score. And they should know exactly where to steer you to get this done.
He is, and if your normal primary care physician can't really help, where do we go from there?
Just give us a call. We will help you figure it out. We are Lake Men's Health. Just call our office at 765-4400, and we'll figure it out with you.
765-4400 is the number. Looking for a CT calcium score. He is Dr. Curtis Chastain. We always appreciate your time. Great to catch up with you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much.
Born ready. Welcome back, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Those around the world tuning in and our fans in Antarctica. Mornings with Brian Haldane without Brian Haldane. Dixon McMakin, joined by Emily Chenevert, State Rep 66 and 68. And now we're honored to have in Stephanie Baralt of the North Shore, my I-12 colleague as well. Rep Baralt, how you doing this morning?
I am fabulous. Good morning, guys. How are y'all?
You turn her up. Did we?
So can we hear this morning? Are you there, Rep Brault?
I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
We got you.
We got you. There we go. So
Awesome.
one of the things when Emily
morning.
and I were coming to host today, we wanted to talk about maybe some legislation that in a normal year would have been a big deal. And we thought of you about your one-door piece of legislation and that policy that changed. And Rep Brault, I just looked up an article about it. I just want to read this to you, and then you take it away from there. The one-door concept is simple yet powerful. It brings together fragmented social and workforce services into a single, accessible entry point for the people who need them, and then focus on positive outcomes. Today, Louisianians navigating poverty often face a maze of disconnected programs: SNAP, TAMP, Medicaid, and workforce training, each with its own bureaucracy, eligibility rules, and offices. This complexity too often traps families in cycles of poverty. And you come along and you fix it all because of one door. So, Rep Baralt, take us through that process and how this is such a substantial piece of legislation for the people of Louisiana.
That's a great tee up, and I will say I agree with you. This is a really big deal. We've got a lot of, I'm sure you all have talked about it, we've got a lot of good things going on, a lot of positive developments. Working on insurance, we've got a lot of businesses coming. But if we're not very intentional, we are going to leave a lot of people behind. And this process actually started just after we were all sworn in. Governor Landry created a task force with 17 different people from 11 different agencies, some members of the community, members of the legislature, his staff. And they spent about 6 months working on this plan. So it's not just my idea. I wish I could take full credit for it, but this was a process that involved people from across all the different agencies. And they just looked around the country and said, okay, what is everyone else doing? How can we do this better? How can we provide better services that not only help people get onto the services that they need, but also ask the very important next question, which is how can we provide you the help and support you need to get off of the services, to get into a place where you're independent, self-sufficient, where you no longer need these services. What that looks like on the state side of it is a reorganization of multiple different agencies. So right now, a lot of the safety net services are being provided through DCFS, the Department of Children and Family Services. And what we're going to do is take some of that stuff out. So the SNAP and disability determination will move over to LDH, where they have people doing essentially the same services. So there are 800 people that work for LDH that do Medicaid eligibility, and there are 600 people working down the street for DCFS that are doing SNAP eligibility for, in essence, the same people on the same system. So we're going to consolidate that so that we're streamlining and we're not duplicating services to make that process a little bit easier. And then the other services that are currently within DCFS, a lot of workforce programs that are, for some reason, separate from the Workforce Commission, and then cash benefits, TANF programs that are all providing family support. We're going to merge those with what was the Louisiana Workforce Commission, will become Louisiana Works. So it'll be one consolidated organization that will do a lot of different things, but it will be the main entryway into the services. So exactly like you just read, when someone needs help, they need support, they're going to go to one either physical location, eventually it's going to be one digital location, and get all the wraparound services that they need. So people who need help will get the help much more efficiently, but also it's going to be better tied in and coordinated with our education and job creator communities. So Workforce Commission does that already really well. And this is going to put all the workforce programs together so that we're coordinating. So Meta is the perfect example. Meta is coming. Hyundai Plan is coming. More LNG is coming. And we need to be training our workforce not to just have a job, but to have a good, high wage, high demand job, which is a win for our families, but it's also a win for the job creators that are trying to fill these jobs, because we've got more jobs coming than we currently have people to fill them. So this is kind of a win-win on all sides.
No, I love this, Rep. Rawl. I love this piece of legislation. I know you and I have talked a little bit about it. And when we were thinking about this, it's because, in the midst of a fiscal session, in the midst of so much that was going on within insurance reform and all of that, which are incredibly important, this was such a big piece that I think we've had colleagues even say, like, I think we'll look back, 15, 20 years and say, man, what an impact this had and how much it shifted, I think, for the betterment of those that are in need, those that are looking to build a career. And so I'm in full agreement with you. A little bit about specific, I know you mentioned a couple of the things that are moving over. What was it like too in working with workforce? I know our workforce is incredible. Secretary Susie, she's incredible as far as, working with her and that dynamic. But talk a little bit about what it was like too to kind of get this through the process. I know we saw you behind the scenes,
Yeah.
hustling, committee, talking to everybody. I mean, there was so much work involved in this, but break that down about the groups of what it was like for you and working with everybody to get this across the finish line.
Well, I'm glad that you asked that. That's a really good point to bring up, because sometimes you get a lot of down on people who work in government, and there's a lot of negative. And I will tell you that we are really blessed in Louisiana. The people who are heading all of these agencies, so this was DCFS with Susie Showen, this was LDH with the new Secretary Greenstein, and then Secretary Matlock at DCFS. Them and their teams all put ego aside, put everything aside, and said, what is going to make the system work better? And there were some shifts along the way. We originally had SNAP going over to workforce, and then some suggestions say, why don't we do it this other way, and we'll get even more efficiency. But the attitude of everyone was really kind of inspiring. They have all bought in to the fact that government is not currently working the way it should, but we can do better. And we had a model in Utah that we saw. And so they just kind of saw the vision of what this could be, and everybody has been kind of marching in the same direction. It's really very inspiring. And then once we started going through the process, from getting people on board and getting other people to buy in, we eventually, after we were able to fully share the vision, we had no objections and unanimous support with 63 co-authors. So this is a vision that has been a lot of different people coming together to create the vision, but then also once we've been able to fully explain it, we've had 100% buy-in from the legislature, from everybody that's coming in. And you're right, though, it's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. This is a massive overhaul of the way we provide services in the state, and it's going to make a big change. It's a change technically, it's a change mechanically, but it's also a change culturally. And the people that are going to be working on the front lines that I've been able to talk to, there's always some resistance. There's people who get real invested in the way things are, and change is hard. But there's also a feeling of we're going to be able to actually help people to get to a better place. And that's good for all of us. We talk a lot in the legislature about kind of the business owners and a lot of the job creators and the people that are coming. And there's a lot of exciting things happening. But none of us from either party want to leave people behind who could be fully participating. And one of the things, too, and this is another big part of this, that's a little bit more sobering, that kind of took on an initial urgency during the conversation, and that is we are having conversations about some cuts coming from the federal level to a lot of these programs. And there's going to be workforce requirements for Medicaid. Well, here we go. We have a program to make sure that happens.
Yep, already ready. Yep.
That's great.
Yeah. Ready to go. Yep.
Rep. Rod, I was looking at the co-author list there, and glad to see that Emily and I made sure we were part of that as well.
That's
but
right.
on the
Thanks,
Senate
guys.
side, I think this is a real testament to this bill. I was just looking at the senators. You had Adam Bass, Gary Carter, Stuart Cathy, Rick Edmonds, Sam Jenkins, Patrick McMath, Beth Mizell, Brock Myers, Bob Owen, Thomas Presley, Bill Wheat, and Glenn Womack. So you have almost every corner of the state, Democrat and Republican.
Yeah.
And on the Senate side, for our listeners, That doesn't happen a whole lot.
Right.
Where it's sometimes it's very regionalized or it's one party. You got a little bit of everything there, and I think that shows the commitment of everybody on this bill and how big of a transformational impact it can have. I love you kept saying the words, my teaser words, efficiency and effectiveness. Oh my goodness. Whoo, those are the best words we can use in state government sometimes.
It's true. And when she was talking about how they realize that government isn't working in that process, and I think that's something that as lawmakers we don't always. There's so much we're working through, and we don't get everything right. But if we can find these areas where it's not working, how do we become more efficient? How do we pass legislation that's going to improve these outcomes? People are getting into work, they're getting into careers, which is getting them into independence. I think that's incredible. So just final thoughts, or just your thoughts more about that efficiency. I mean, I know
Well,
that it matters to you greatly. We know that.
Well, it does, and I did want to kind of highlight one last piece of this that I haven't really touched on a whole lot, and you may at some point talk to Rep. Carver about this, but a very important part of this in terms of making government work better is what's left behind. What will remain at DCFS is going to be an agency that is fully and completely focused on child welfare. That is another area that we have not been doing that service as well as we should. There's been some pretty public examples over the last several years of child welfare not serving the most vulnerable kids in our state as well as it should. And the agency that is going to remain is going to be solely focused on that. Secretary Matlock has got such a heart for helping kids, especially kids in crisis, and how do we better serve them on the front end so that their families don't get in crisis, but then once they are there, how do we better serve them? And that's going to be what remains at DCFS, which is a huge important part of this, because if we're not protecting our most vulnerable kids and helping them, then we're not doing our job. So it's all around, I think, going to help provide better for the job creators, for the taxpayers, for the citizens who need our help, and most importantly, for the children that are in need. So all good. Thank y'all for supporting, for helping us tell the story.
We're all good, and Louisiana is better off as well because of your leadership, and you mentioned Rep. Carver as well, and I believe y'all sit by each other. I remember there was a special moment there where I remember y'all kind of watching and high-fiving each other as it was happening, and, people think just because we have a super majority of Republicans on both sides that just anything is going to pass through, but that's not the case. It takes hard work. It takes dedication. We are so grateful for your hard work, his hard work, and all the agencies that have backed you, and we wish you the very best now heading into the summer months, and hopefully we don't have to see you again for a special this year, but if we do, we know you'll be ready to get back to work with us.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you for what you guys are doing. I know it's early on the first Monday that we're out. I appreciate you being out there telling all these stories.
Thank you. She
Thanks
is
for
Rep.
joining us.
Stephanie Baralt of District 76, her home office over in the Slidell area. She capstones the I-12 corridor, so
That's
she's
right.
got it all the way on that side. When we come back, we're going to do a little break. Emily and I back and forth. This Day in History, David DeLucci and Will Green in the third hour. We'll be back.
Good deal.
That was her article I read, by the way. How do you read the title? No wonder it sounded so good. She wrote it. What's the
Very
Chenevert?
strong.
What's the Chenevert order? Like, what do you?
Chenevert order. If I just do drip coffee, it's a little bit of cream. I don't like my coffee that very sweet, but I just like a little bit of regular sugar. I don't do the fake stuff. It's bad for you, right? So just a little bit. However, my go-to if I'm going through a drive-through like coffee, pick it up, is cappuccino. I love a great cappuccino. Just cannot stand weak coffee. As long as it's not weak. All right, we're coming back.
I don't have anything. Welcome back. Good morning. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Without Brian Haldane, it's your two favorite state reps from Baton Rouge filling in.
That's right.
Emily Chenevert, Dixon McMakin, John on the ones and twos, helping us out. Pretty good morning so far, Emily. We went through our legislative years. Attorney General Liz Muriel, Medical Monday, Rep Baralt there as well. Next time we'll have to have Rep Carver on as well. He had a lot of work with that one as well. Both just great leaders, part of our freshman class. And Emily, one thing I wanted to ask you about was if you go on the House website right now, tune in, there's a new picture up. New picture they took, and it's all these freshmen minus a few people. But I want you to talk about kind of what this picture represents. It says the speaker joins members who played key roles in passing the budget bills. Not quite right on the budget bills, but we got State Rep John Weibel, Peter Egan, Beth Billings, Jay Galley, Jason DeWitt, Michael Mellerin, yourself, Stephanie Baralt, Chance Henry, Troy Hebert, Josh Carlson, Kim Carver, Dennis Slamberg, Kelly Dickerson, Glorioso, and then we got Rep Shammerhorn, Rep Gadberry, Mike Johnson, and Speaker DeVilliers. Why are all y'all at a table together taking a group photo? Kind of what does that picture represent?
No, it's a great question. And I didn't even see that photo since you mentioned it. We have some good. We even have our
Seersucker Day photo
up there now. If you want to go see it. No, but back to that picture. There's a lot. I think that is many in that picture carried a lot. Some of the insurance reform bills, also some litigation reform. As far as within the litigation climate in our state, and I think it was some of those conversations happened. Whether it was, I carried something last year dealing with TPLF that was dealing with some litigation financing, and so we were thinking maybe some people that are interested in kind of carrying some similar things. And so in this conversation, we a lot of us around that table carried some of those that got all the way through. There's about 5 or 6, I think, that came out, maybe a few more, and then there was a lot that did not. I think I think we had 16 or 18 bills that came out of the House ish for a lot of that reform. So all of them did not make it through the process, but many that kind of stuck together, fought on this, but really a lot of us did on the House floor, right? But a lot of these were just authors of some of these bills, and so carried them all the way through and just worked really hard to do that. And so I feel like it was one of those things that when we made that decision early on, like who's going to carry what, who wants to carry what, who wants to be involved in doing that. And so, but again, I think it just represents not just even those at the table, but all of the people kind of rallying together in the House and the Senate to get those bills across,
Yeah, just
so that was one of those.
Great photo there, and something y'all have, and took a lot of work, and something that Speaker DeVilliers has pressed on us was, look, just because now we're out of session, the work does not stop, right? If you want to have a meeting, bring people in, let's do that. Let's get all the work done. So you don't have to just bring a bill one year to see who comes to the table. You have to wait a whole nother year. Do it in the off season.
Do it in the off season.
And have a chance to bring that bill this year to have legislation passed.
That's right. That's right. And I think, probably you as well in your district. I think at the time, one thing I heard even when running a few years back was the insurance, right?
Yep.
Oh, we were going to do anything. So I think that's something that all of us, every legislator up there, both House and Senate, we're trying to work through the process and balance that while a fiscal session's going on. That's the challenge, right? Because it wasn't a special session, but sometimes it felt like it was, right, at the very beginning.
This would be the most overlooked fiscal session
right?
in history. I wish we could have had on Rep Emerson. She had a lot of bills that, of course, Amendment 2 failed before session.
Right.
So she came back and realized, okay, why did it fail? What happened? There was too much in there. People didn't quite understand it, didn't have time to look it over. So what did she do? Okay, she took out the pieces that she felt really passionate about that I think we all kind of agreed who's really in opposition of this. We couldn't find too many people or too many groups that were in opposition. So now we're going to bring those pieces back in April. So you have time now. You have from June to April to learn about them, read about them, know
that
what's
bill's
happening
out there. And I want to tell people listening, they can go in, they can log in. There's that bill, they can read and understand like what in the digest and the summaries of that. They have the opportunity. But you're right. It's more about just more of maybe the how it was done versus what was in it. Like I don't
Absolutely.
think people disagree.
And we'll be ready to go. We're ready to go with the third and final hour of Monday's Morning with Brian Haldane. And we come back after this without Brian Haldane.
I think Brian texted us. Did you see that?
Yeah.
What did he say? Text message. That's so funny. He loves it. He can just. I couldn't let my kids hear any of that this weekend. All that stuff that was going on. I didn't want them to hear that. Get them nervous. My daughter's a little bit of a Chicago worry wart, and she just. I could tell. Is Delucci coming in or is he calling her?
No, he's calling. He's in Omaha.
Oh, that's right.
He's
That's cool to have.
up.
It's a good person to have on. That was a good.
Like a double dip.
That was a good one.
Double dip.
You sure?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get this yesterday so I could floss tonight. I'm really going to the dentist at 10, so I'm going to go to Walmart after this and try to buy it and then just do it for like an hour before I go to the, like, it's like how you clean before your maid comes over. That's
You're
your
like,
gums are already bleeding.
You're,
Like,
yes, that's exactly right. You're so
you
right.
caught me. You caught the tater.
It's kind of like, have you been flossing?
No.
Yeah, I have.
No.
Yeah.
Never. Never.
No, I need to get a good one like that too.
But it's, I mean, it says it's originally $215. It's $37, which makes you question everything about it now. But so I went last night to get it. It's in a locked case. There was nobody. There was nobody.
Really?
Like, the hell? We walked around the store. Like, go to customer service. I go to customer service. The lady's trying to return a step stool without a receipt, without anything.
Yeah. Stories of customer service. That could be a whole channel. That's frustrating. That's a challenge. All right, when we come back, we don't have him until 7. No, am I doing?
We're doing this day in history. Oh, yeah.
This day in history, right? Oh gosh, you have some good ones. I got to get some good ones. Let me see. Let me see if there's any good ones. This day. Every now and then you find like a really you're like, oh, this is a good one. You don't know any birthdays. You don't know anything that's. Yeah, you're like, wow, I need something. I need. Right. Let me see. I'm like, who has? Do I know anybody has a birthday today? What about any reps have birthdays? I don't know. We wouldn't know.
Unless it was in my phone, I wouldn't know. I don't have any birthdays in my phone, which is rare. That's how I keep up with it. Who's Walter Beach? He's angry. I'm trying to get him to the Capitol to do Red Beans Day one day.
Why is that such a really good phrase?
Welcome back. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Without Brian Haldane, she's Emily Chenevert. I'm Dixon McMakin filling in for B while he is off traveling the world. He's going around the world interviewing newsmakers so he can bring them back on his show. Yeah, he's traveling the world because he's like tired of talking to Baton Rouge people. He's like, I'm going worldwide. He's going to shave his head. He's going to be new Mr. Worldwide. Gordy Rush has already approved a budget of like $1 billion to do that for him.
Right.
So taking James on the road with him. They're going to go travel the world, and it's going to be mornings with Brian Haldane. From where? We don't know. Like, where in the world is Brian Haldane? So looking forward to that show in the future.
You can tell it's the third hour. We're a little more awake than 6 a.m.
Making all that up. But as they normally do each show around this time, I believe it's This Day in History. Isn't there a thing that we can't hear?
We cannot hear it.
All right. Here we go. Starting off in 1858, Abraham Lincoln says a house divided against itself cannot stand, accepting Illinois Republican Party's nomination for the Senate. That happened today. 1909, first U.S. airplane is sold commercially by Glenn Curtiss for a whole whopping $5,000.
Whoa.
What?
Yeah.
$5,000.
1932, U.S. President Herbert Hoover and Vice President Charles Curtis renominated by Republican convention this day. Entertainment news here. 1978, the film Grease is released.
I had that one. That's a good one. That's right.
Yeah.
That was a iconic movie, right?
Oh, indeed.
So,
indeed.
100%.
Yeah, that was one of those movies I kind of grew up with, and I wasn't born in the 70s, but
I mean, but
you
I
know.
feel like everyone has seen.
Grease,
Please tell me you know Grease.
Grease 1? Grease 1?
Yeah.
You're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
John
Yes.
Travolta.
John
Come
Travolta,
on.
Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff here. And speaking of movies, 1980, the musical comedy The Blues Brothers, starring Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, was released today as well. Yeah.
There's another one. You might have it. 1960 Psycho, the psychological horror film
Psycho.
directed by Alfred Hitchcock,
Okay, yeah.
starring Janet Leigh, Anthony Perkins, and Vera Miles, opened in New York City on this
Wow.
day. Yep.
Yeah, good stuff. Keeping it entertainment, here's some music news here. 1990, You Can't Touch This by MC Hammer peaks at number 8 on this
What?
day.
That's a good one.
This day, 2015, TV personality and real estate mogul Donald Trump launches his campaign for the Republican nomination for U.S. president at Trump Tower.
Right. On this day. Wow.
Today,
Down the
yes.
escalator Simpson style.
That's
Yep.
10 years
Yeah.
ago. Think about that.
Wow.
Has it been
Gosh.
10 years? Okay.
It's insane. 2021 summit between U.S. President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Switzerland. They meet today over issues including cyber attacks and human rights. So
Okay.
that happened today.
Today.
1910. I'm not sure. It's called the internet. Sure, it's true. The first Father's Day is celebrated in Spokane, Washington. So Father's
Oh.
Day was yesterday. So at some
Oh.
point, they must have changed it to the Sunday date.
Good
So I guess
stuff,
that was
yeah.
Sunday back
Maybe
then. I mean,
so.
that's what
Maybe.
happened. And in 1815, Napoleon defeats the Prussians at the Battle of Ligny. So
Okay.
Napoleon, my dad's a big fan of Napoleon. House on Napoleon. He dresses up as the only 6'2" Napoleon in the world. So anything with Napoleon's always good.
awesome.
1902, The Wizard of Oz musical first opens in
Oh,
Chicago.
That's good
So
stuff.
good
Yeah.
musical. I love the film. Love the musical. My
There
kids
we
have seen
go.
all of that. And that was that. Let's see. I feel like there was birthdays and exciting birthdays.
We got
Yeah.
Geronimo here.
Okay.
Geronimo. Also Tupac today.
I had that one
Yeah.
on today.
That's it. Let's see who else we got. I know I have one more for you all.
Wait,
Let's
Phil
see.
Mickelson, 55th
Whoa,
birthday.
okay.
That's what I'm seeing. So that's a good good birthday. Let's see. Anybody else? You got any birthdays? Anybody
I've
else any
got
more
Jack
birthdays?
Albertson. He was the grandpa in let's see, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love the original. I mean, I don't know your original. Have you probably, I don't know if Dixon, you've seen all the. Why would you? Right? Like you maybe had not have seen all of the different versions of Willy Wonka, but that's a good one. That's the classic.
You
Yeah,
get
for
nothing.
sure.
You
You
loser. I actually saw a clip of that last night that he didn't practice that in front of the kid
Yeah, that was
And just-
improvised.
to make it more
Yeah.
improvised
That's really
along the way.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. I did
If
not
I
know
was that kid, I would have been terrified.
Right?
Like, what is
Terrified.
going on? Right?
Terrified.
You
Let's see.
What a great day for movies and just movies overall.
Yeah.
All right, we got to go back to Grease though and Blues Brothers.
Yep.
Favorite song you'll have? Let's start with Grease. Come on, what's like your favorite?
Oh, man. Summer Love is cool.
Yeah.
That's actually probably one of the best. I mean, there's
So good.
so many good ones.
Yeah.
You know.
Man, yeah.
What about you?
So I mean, I know the whole thing. My babysitter, Keely Williams, that's tuning in out there. That was the movie as kids that we had to watch. Like that was, you know, you sit a kid down to shut him up and listen and watch a movie. That was the one that we
Grease?
had to. Yeah, that was it. So.
But isn't it interesting when you go back and watch it as an adult and like your kids are in the room? You're like, oh wait, there's some things that.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like with a few movies, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You're the one that I want. I mean, you know, when she comes
Yeah.
back,
That's a
got the
good one.
leather on. He's tried to flip the roll, got the leather jacket.
Yeah.
I mean, the athletic jacket on, and like, tell me about it.
That's
I
right.
mean, you know, come on.
Yeah.
And wop, wop,
lot
bam,
of-
boom.
yeah.
Really getting into this Grease thing. I
A lot
like
of
it.
innuendos in there.
And then
Innuendos
the
in
Blues
there.
Brothers. I mean, come on.
Oh,
How do you
man,
not
yeah.
like, as a politician, you got to
Love
love
it.
the Blues Brothers. Like, one night only, the Blues Brothers live. And like, that's, I always wanted to put a big microphone on a car and drive around District 68. Like,
And
don't
do
forget to
that?
vote this Saturday.
Oh,
One day
yes.
only. Vote this
Yes.
Saturday. One day only. Performance tonight. Justin Jefferson's birthday.
So
So
there
that
you
one
go.
just came into the group text. Brian's not here, but tuning in, make sure we don't curse and lose any
That's
FCC
right.
ratings on
That's
the
right.
radio.
We're good. I know.
So
Listening in. Yeah.
decent day of stuff that happened.
For sure, absolutely. As far as deaths go today, I don't know. We don't really have any notable deaths. Of course, there are many deaths, but I don't know if any are worth mentioning or if anyone would even know. Of these deaths. Let's start at the top of this list.
I mean,
Werner von Braun, like whoever that is, I'm sure he did some great stuff. Apparently, he worked for NASA. Played a key role in developing the Saturn V launch vehicle for the Apollo missions to the moon.
Love that person.
But yeah, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
we have an Italian composer.
Hey, there
Don't
we
know
go.
him, obviously. 1651, dies at 74. Marsilio Casentini.
Okay.
You know, so if anyone out there that loves his music, then he passed away apparently this day.
Indeed.
Anybody else y'all have? Oh wait,
I think that's pretty much
let's
it on mine.
see. We have John Churchill, died first Duke of Marlborough, an English general strategist, died at 72 on this day.
Tony Gwynn died. There you go. There's one for the sports fans out there. 15-time MLB All-Star, 9-time batting champion, 5-time Gold Gloves. He was pretty awesome.
Okay, there we
And
go.
Before Christopher Reeve, George Reeves passed away this day, 1959. He portrayed Superman.
Gotcha.
Oh yes,
So,
another little movie that just.
When we come back, after this next break, we're going to have the guy that I consider one of my Supermans.
Oh,
David DeLucci joining
great
us
guy.
in.
One of our
like that segue.
Catholic
Yeah.
High, Grizzly
Right.
greats.
one of our council members in St. George.
And now he's in Omaha covering the Tigers, covering all the great stuff up there. So he played at Ole Miss. Unfortunately, didn't go to LSU. That's okay. Then he went to the Major Leagues, World Series champion. But I'll never forget, I'm playing baseball at Catholic High. He comes back to take batting practice with us one day.
Oh gosh.
And when I tell you, I thought he was just swinging like a ground ball. The next thing you know, it's over the building we have in right field. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just warming up, guys. Just warming up." He drove an H2 yellow Hummer, which we're all little high school kids. Like we thought,
You're like,
man, this
"Whoa,
guy
this is
drives
so
a Hummer. He's hitting bombs. Like, oh my gosh.
He's our hero, right?
And then you meet him, and you're like, that's the most humble, genuine
Kind,
human
that's
being that there is on the face of this earth. So looking forward to double dipping, talking to him about sports and City of St. George when we come back after this. Mornings with Brian Haldane without the Haldane.
Awesome. Yeah.
He may need the number. I know you can send it to him.
And he'll be calling it?
I just sent it to him.
Oh, okay. What's his name again?
David DeLucci.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like watching Grease as a kid. Got the full.
Oh, I would think you would totally get into all these songs.
But the Blues Brothers, we actually did that at Catholic. I'm a soul man. We did a performance called "I'm a Bear." I'm a Bear fan.
I'm a Bear
Studio.
fan.
We had the band.
I like
play it.
that.
We were singing it on a tempo of
Yes,
4.
sir. We'll have you up here in about another
They were
minute.
playing on a 2 tempo.
Appreciate it.
It was so bad.
Oh, I bet it was bad.
Our friends still tease us, like, what were y'all doing that day? I was like, I just wanted to drive a golf cart around school that day. Because put the megaphone on top like the car. Like, one day only.
That is so funny.
Yes, sir. Oh, we can say that when you come in, Will. We'll do that. Are you coming in or calling? What are you going to do? Yeah, the sign. So look right. You should see my Tahoe. Emily has
Red car, yeah.
red Lexus down there. Yeah. Yeah, I'll come down and get you. Text me when you're at the door.
Yeah, and then let me know. I can run down there. That way you don't have to.
He goes when you were saying that I have my hero coming next. I'm not next.
I'm not next.
Yeah, so Will's going to be in studio. So we'll rotate the mic.
Is it going to be two?
Did David call in? Okay,
He's
great.
on. He's on the line. I see it flashing right there.
I don't know why you wouldn't come in if you lived in.
It's so much better to be. I love being in studio. I mean, look, if you're on the road, you can't. I get it. Or just something happens, you can't. I feel like just the in person is a better. It's a different dynamic. But I'm telling you, I feel like once it hits about 7:50, 7:45, you just rolls.
Welcome back. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Without Brian Haldane, your favorite show of the year, Emily Chenevert, Dixon McMakin. We are now joined by a Baton Rouge legend. He's in the Louisiana American Italian Hall of Fame, the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame, and, of course, the Catholic High School Grizzly Greats Hall of Fame. David DeLucci join us from Omaha. DeLucci, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Another day in what they call the promised land of college baseball, and it hasn't disappointed. And, hey, the LSU Tigers are in the winner's bracket after beating their division rival. It's a great day and a great time to be a college baseball fan.
Well, DeLucci, we got you in today. We're kind of going to double dip with you, that role you have in Omaha up there, then also City of St. George and some politics, and just went to your Wikipedia page. You don't even have that you're an elected official up yet. We're going to have to go in there and edit your page for you, so everyone knows how great you are. And Elvis sang a song, Promised Land, so we'll have to get you to play that one later for us on the show. Let's start with Omaha. How's it going? I know you stayed up late last night doing your show, but the weather has looked fantastic. The baseball has been fantastic. Is the atmosphere as electric as I remember it to be?
Yeah, it is. And I tell you, early on in the tournament, you have a fan base that is waiting for their team to make it to the championship series before they turn out. That's typically how it works, but not this year. Arkansas LSU rivalry is real. The fans travel. It was about 50-50 in the stadium. It was loud. It was electric. And I'm telling you, we pretty much are seeing crowds of 25,000 a game here, and we've seen great representation from the Louisville fans, the Oregon State fans. This is a really neat year because last year it was ACC and SEC heavy, but this year we've got teams like Murray State and Coastal Carolina that really are showing the parity in baseball this year, and the fans are coming out to support them.
Yeah, I looked at the box score from that LSU-Arkansas game. The attendance was 25,464 people.
Wow.
Packed house.
Unbelievable. I mean, try to find that attendance in a big league ball game other than what the Yankees and the Red Sox bring. I mean, it's a great era for baseball in the fact that collegiate superstars and prospects are spending more time in college. They're not signing out of high school to go to pro ball, and we're seeing the best baseball we've seen in a while. We've got guys that are throwing 100 miles an hour. I mean, it's truly amazing, the evolution of the game. And when you come to a tournament like this, you're basically looking at ball players that could potentially be in the big leagues next year. I mean, we've got guys that have just been called up, like Christian Moore from Tennessee last year. He just got called up to the big leagues. He was in the College World Series last year. So I would assume we have a couple players like that once again.
Yeah, it's great to talk to another, Louisiana High School Athletic Association All-State baseball player that David was, first teamer, myself, third team academic honorable mention. So we're kind of very much on the same playing field when it comes to that.
Are you?
Yeah, when you read the title, it reads the same. It actually it reads the same, All-State, and then you have to just go into the asterisk part of it.
Gotcha.
But David, what's on your schedule today? I wanted to give you on to get the folks at home a sense of what your day looks like when you're covering these teams and up there, you're kind of think you're in left field is where you've been covering the game. So, what's a day like for you having to cover 2 games in Omaha today?
Yeah, so it's a little different this year, as you mentioned, being a councilman at St. George. I have to include my duties for the city of St. George in my schedule today. Last year and the years before, it would be get up early. They have coaches meetings in the morning if you choose to attend and listen and learn about the starting pitchers for the night and any injuries or issues like that. And afterwards, our first game starts at 1:00. So I make sure I'm either in the stadium or watching on TV, and I'm taking notes. And then in between the games, we have great catering service at the ballpark. Appearances sometimes with the fans, and then you get ready for the 6:00 game. And then we have our post-game show that airs on the SEC network after every single night. This year's a little bit different because we don't have SEC teams on the other sides of the bracket. Usually we're doing a show every single night talking about SEC games of the day. But this year we're still doing a nightly show. But because LSU and Arkansas are one side of the bracket, it's heavy on LSU and Arkansas. And as I mentioned, the difference with being a councilman, I've got 2 councilman Zoom meetings to attend during the course of cramming statistics and averages and ERAs. I'm also trying to help build a city at the same time. So I've got a full plate every single day.
Well, we're honored to have you serve as one of our members on the council, David. And so it is a balance. I feel like no matter what position someone may be as an elected official, right? And that's what makes, I think, people who they're in the field doing what they love, working every day, but also finding time to serve the people. And so I think that's what makes people like yourself great when it comes to doing both and all that. What are some of the things, kind of shifting a little bit to the St. George piece? What are some things that you feel like since you've been elected and been a part, that some of the beginning conversations are going on around the focus of the city? Is there anything specific that stands out to you that y'all are focusing on right now?
Yeah, there's several issues, and I want to thank you both for your service as well. It's definitely not as easy as many people think. I know a lot of people want to call with opinions, suggestions, and complaints, but when you get on this side that all 3 of us are on, it's extremely difficult. We're looking at everything that a resident experiences every single day and have felt like has been neglected. And one is drainage. That's at the top of our list. We just had FEMA come in and do an audit of the city, so we're addressing a bunch of issues that we have with that. Traffic is another issue that we have, and we're just now getting some money in as a city to be able to go out there and perform some duties to correct some of these issues. It goes much deeper than that, as you all know, and as far as zoning and planning and developments that are coming in. You have to have a vision as to what your city is going to look like in the future. And I'm not talking about next year being the future. You're talking about 10, 15 years down the road. Where do we want to be at that time? And we're also excited. And Emily, I want to thank you for your efforts in the school district formation that we're going to have. I mean, there's just so many things that are popping up. I think it's kind of like the game Civilization, where you start from scratch and then you build a city the way that you see and what you envision being best for the area and the people. And you also get the input from the people and what they want. I think that's the other thing. I know the council members have really gone out and met with the HOAs and listened to what they have and what they need. And you talk about boots on the ground. That's been the most important part of our job, is to go out and hear what our citizens have to say and what they want.
Well, I love what you said as far as it's a great idea, and think about how when you're starting to meet with the HOAs as these council members, like as something is starting from the ground up, what better place to start than the neighborhoods of all the people? What better place to start than hearing the concerns of what they feel and then understanding how they want to be represented? And so you're right. It's good stuff. I know that's, I hear a little bit about that. It was the traffic and drainage and all those things. And sometimes those are the things that people think, oh, well, that, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal when it comes to traffic. You know this, Dixon, like traffic and drainage and look, the school system, you're right. I think that's going to be a big thing, I know, for the area, and that vote to the people and just getting the word out of what that's going to look like. And then you guys are going to have a big part as we, starting that as we get to a new school board and all of those things. So it's a great time. You talked about vision. What are some of the things, David, you as an individual, obviously a dad, a husband who lives in the city of St. George, what are some of the things that you want to see as part of that council personally? Is there anything that comes to mind for you that you'd love to see in the next, 10 to 20 years get established?
I think to me, as a dad and with a daughter, what's very, very high on my list is safety and security, and that goes all the way down to red light runners and speeders. I mean, when my daughter gets her driver's license, I would hope that she's a responsible driver, but I would also like to believe that everyone else on the road is going to be as well. And we just need to enforce the law, and we need to boost our law enforcement so that they have the numbers to go out there and do it and are not overwhelmed. And we're looking into areas, and we have some great ideas to help support our law enforcers out there, and a clean city as a father is what you want. Also, Dixon, I want to thank you for the work you're doing with that Breck bill. I believe parks and recs and programs for our youth are extremely important. I keep saying, if you want to see where your city is going to be in 10 years, look at what you have to offer to your children. And there are plenty rooms of improvement that we can do on that. And, the great thing that I have seen with the people involved, you two included, is that it's not necessarily people that want to be career politicians. It's people that want to make an impact and do what's right. And I think about St. George council members, Patty Cook, Max Himmel, Steve Monticello, and I can go on and on. They don't need to do this. They're doing this because they want a better future for everyone. And it's really cool when you get a group of people with the same vision and the same goal and no hidden agenda. What you accomplish is amazing.
And you're one of those too, David, and we appreciate you waking up with us. We know you're up anyway, scouting those games today and getting to those Zoom calls. So we'll be tuning in tonight, and hope you'll be cheering on in our final 10 seconds. Are you allowed to give us a prediction for the LSU game tonight? Is that allowed?
Yeah, I can, yes. LSU plays UCLA, and Anthony Ianson is going to take the mound. He grew up 20 minutes away from UCLA's campus, was not recruited. I know a little bit about that, Dixon. Was not recruited by the home team, so he's going to be motivated. I think the Tigers beat UCLA and move on to the next level of the tournament.
There we go. Thanks, David. Have a great evening in Omaha, and go Tigers. Thank you, sir. Go Bears, too.
Y'all take care. Yep, thanks for having me.
We'll be back. Mornings with Brian Haldane. William?
Good morning. That's what I'm leaving at like 5:20. I'm like, man, they got. Where do you want? Right over there. Okay.
For what?
I got up at 5.
Oh,
5:15.
my alarm went off at.
Yeah.
We both technically made it before the show started.
We rolled in, coming in a little hot this morning, both of us. I usually have a cup of coffee as soon as I wake up. This morning it wasn't that. My voice is not the best either today. But.
I'm staying. I can't let him look much taller than me. I'm not going to let that happen.
I told you could use that chair when we got here this morning.
Nope.
No.
This will show you what it looks like. Lead along. All right. What do you want to talk about, William? So we got him for the last 2 segments. We're going long with this guy. Since John always says you never come in studio, it's a big deal for him to see you.
I know. I feel so honored that we've got him. Yes.
And whether they're going to get out of the car by the time
By the-
Brian hits the
And
and I'm on, and like my kid's not like yelling like I forgot my water bottle. So going on later allow me to come in.
We'll tell Brian that in the future.
It usually is.
That same one. Where'd you get that from?
I think this is Jose Bonk.
Joseph A. Bank, yeah.
I love that. Jose Vaughn.
That's right. It's a Taylor, private Taylor.
It's a private Taylor.
My private tailor is Cajun Fashion. KG Fashion.
Whatever.
Local retailer.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
And him on air.
I like that.
Y'all probably covered it all by now, huh?
We got AG was on. Stephanie Brawl. It was a good segment with her.
Yeah,
We did
the
her
one
one door.
door.
One door.
Yeah, talked through that a lot.
I spoke Friday with Susie, and she talked a lot about the one door.
The reason we brought her on was because in a normal session, that's a big deal. And it, like this session, it just kind of got,
I
like,
mean, it was focused on, but I just feel like there were so many other things too, with insurance and all the other things going on.
Yeah, I mean, there should have been a huge press conference, and that should have made more national news.
It really should have made more.
Because I mean, we're only one of a few states that like has that formalized.
Yeah, I think Utah. They looked at the Utah model, and then
Yeah, that's a
it's a huge deal. So she had a lot of time on it this morning, which was good. She could
how
share
great
that.
is David, though? Man,
No, he's awesome.
Who's that?
David
DeLucci,
DeLucci.
Catholic Bear, elected.
He is
St. George.
great. He's first time I met him.
I think
I
it's
was
just me and
running,
him
it's
now, the
just-
only elected of people from our high school.
Is it?
Sad day for Louisiana. There's more Jesuits elected than us.
Can beat by the New Orleans guys.
Maddox almost did the Catholic football camp this week, but it just wasn't a good week.
I don't know how you do all that. Bess and I had to go to a party.
It's
With
so
like there was like
much.
15 kids at this party. We just sat in the corner eating a cheese board. We're like, can we get out of here? And it was like the amount that the parents like just didn't care either. Like it was just one of those like y'all are so used to it, like the screaming and the stuff hitting walls and like you're just nope, they'll
It's-
survive. Not worried about
They
it.
will. They're awesome, but it's a lot. It's the summer figuring out where they go in the summer.
The camp.
The camp thing. And I want to be with them because I have a flexible schedule. I don't want to put them in a camp all summer because I'm I'm so busy during session.
I mean,
So
camp roulette is so hard.
it is.
Um,
Do yours go? Do they do that? Like
well,
do like
I mean, Tatum's old enough now. She has dance up like next week is nationals in Orlando, so they have like she has her dance schedule still crazy. After next week, pretty much July and the first couple weeks of August, we have camps.
Where
like,
does she
stacked
dance?
up. Therese.
Okay, mine's at Revolution. We go to nationals in 2 weeks. We're in
Yes.
Vegas in 2
We're
weeks.
in Orlando.
It's
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, she dances 20 hours a week, and I mean, it's
how old is she?
11.
So is Maya. That's right. We both have an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
I've probably seen her at.
I'm sure.
I'm surprised I haven't seen you at any competition. Well, there was one that I think we don't go to maybe the same one, but there was one where Therese, I think that was there.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we did probably 3 or 4 at Crown Plaza, and then 2 or 3 at Montgomery.
How many do y'all do a year?
Probably 6.
I do 6.
6 or 7. I don't know. Kristen handles all that. I don't really. I just if they're here, she takes her on the road. And
Yeah.
then the ones at Baton Rouge, I'll stop in because I mean, she does her solos on like Fridays, which is crazy that like she has to leave school and go do a solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really understand all that. I didn't have sisters, so.
I danced for 20 years, but we didn't. It wasn't like it is today. Like it wasn't this degree. It's a lot. Maya's good. She gets scholarships all the time. She whatever. But I'm just. It's a lot on me. It was a lot on me during session.
Oh, I can't imagine. Yeah, so
I have to have a lot of help.
after this week, it'll be a lot better.
We should be back.
Welcome back. Final half hour mornings with Brian Haldane. Without Brian Haldane, Emily Chenevert, Dixon McMakin filling in. And for our final half hour here, we're joined by the Lobby President and CEO, Will Green, Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Will, thanks for being in the studio today.
In
Something
studio.
that Brian Haldane has been unable to pull off, but of course he's not here in your first time in the studio. Welcome.
Thanks. No, it's great to be here in person. This is amazing. I hate Brian's not here for my first in studio, but
Right.
if he's not here, there's not 2 better people I would rather be here sharing the studio with this morning. So thank y'all for having me.
We agree fully. So last session, of course, so we didn't mention this, there were 696 House bills, 248 Senate bills, 944 bills. You and the lobby team, you have to go through every single one of those, see how it affects your members, see how it affects the cities, the states. What's kind of your overall takeaway from this fiscal session that we just finished Thursday?
Yeah, golly, and I heard y'all talking about it earlier. It didn't really feel much like a fiscal session, right? I mean, normally in a shortened fiscal session, a lot of focus is on tax and budget. This year, it certainly felt like the tax and the budget sort of took a back seat, and I think a lot of that was by design, right? I think we came in really in the off season as soon as the 2024 session gavelled out. You all really went to work, especially the insurance committee, civil law committees on both sides really went to work talking about addressing the insurance crisis. I think in 2024, a lot of focus was on property insurance. You all with Commissioner Temple asked the question, why are we an outlier? What do we need to do? You went to the insurance companies and said, why are you not writing here? You asked those questions, you got the answers. You went in and you beefed up fortified roof. You beefed up, the bad faith laws in Louisiana to make that better for claimants as well as better for insurance carriers, more certain, more predictable. We're no longer one of 3 states in the country that you can sue an insurance company directly. And so all of those things made it more attractive for insurance companies on the property side to come and write here. But it wasn't really mission accomplished so much on casualty side, on car insurance. And so you all wanted to ask those same questions. And in the about 6 or 7 months, after the 2024 session, you had hearings on top of hearings. You brought in us, you brought in business coalitions, plaintiff attorneys, defense attorneys, insurance carriers, experts from all over the country. And you asked the tough questions. You said, why are we an outlier? Why are property and casualty carriers both not writing here? What can we look at in other states that where we're an outlier? Things like Representative Chenevert's modified comparative fault. We found we were one of only 9 states in the country that had a pure comparative fault system. We found we were an outlier, and when it came to no pay, no play, we were one of the only states in the country that had this Housley presumption. One of the only states in the country that had Kelly bad faith. which was Representative Seaball's bill that was unfortunately vetoed by the governor recently. And so you asked the tough questions, and I think by design, entering, you had done the research, had done the work, put in the work, and by design, all of those bills were introduced and went through the session pretty quickly. And I think, leadership wanted those to move through early on and to get out ahead of some of the tax and budget issues. And so I think that was really pretty successful, right? I mean, didn't get everything we wanted. I think at the end, Senator Mike Reese had a very, very good medical transparency bill. It was not the bill that was filed in Florida, and it was not the bill that was filed in ultimately filed and passed in Florida and Georgia that took care of both medical bills as well as the cash pay issue. But it was a very, very good bill. We now have the ability to introduce evidence of what was charged and what was paid to the jury, and the jury's limited to awarding what was actually paid by the insurance company. And so that's a massive first step. And so, again, I think it was a really, really successful session, got a lot of things done. We still have a lot of work to do in Louisiana, but wow, what a difference just a couple of years has made, right? I mean, we talk all the time about coming into 2024. We were losing more population than we were gaining. We were 42nd in our tax climate, 40s in our education climate. We had 3 of the top 10 violent crime cities in the country, and we were the highest cost state for insurance. And you all have gone to work. You've moved us probably what's going to be in the 20s in tax as a result of the special session at the end of 2024. You passed significant criminal justice reform, not only in making us more transparent, not only making our state more accountable, but also on reentry, making sure that when people go to prison, they don't go just to be better prisoners, right? They go to get GEDs, they come out with access to IDs, and so that when they go to get a job, they have their ID or their birth certificate. You beefed up the MJ Foster Promise program. Obviously, we didn't go as far as we wanted this year on that, but as a result, I think criminal justice and crime has decreased in Louisiana, and so mission accomplished a lot on tax. Still have a lot of work to do, but mission accomplished, to a big degree on criminal justice reform. Education, passed education savings accounts, high dosage tutoring, and as a result, we've now moved from the 40s down into the 30s. This year, look at the really good insurance reform we've done, piggybacking on the property reform last year, and so as a result, in just 2 years, I think you all have done a tremendous job in moving our state forward. And but other states have taken notice. We've got to keep our pedal to the feet on the gas and continuing to move, because we can't do what Louisiana's done in the past, which is accomplish some good goals and then kind of sit back and high five, right? I mean, if we're standing still, we're falling behind. And so, but no, I think it was a tremendously successful session, and now we kind of reassess. Let's let the dust settle, and then kind of go back to the drawing board and see where we need to keep pushing.
One thing for me, sitting on the Commerce Committee, something that kind of got overlooked this session too, I thought, was some of the new things we put in place for Susan Bourgeois and the LED team, right? Getting those projects here, seeing what, like you mentioned, hey, we're looking at other states, we're seeing what they're doing. Like, why are we losing this project, or what's happening on over there? The amount of infrastructure that they're putting in place that are already ready to go. The Haldane plant, even just getting Buc-ee's to I-20 now, usually around Lafayette, right? They want certain things in place before they'll even consider coming here, and we got to take notice of that. And that's something I know your group does a lot of, is letting us know as legislators, hey, this is happening in other states. Y'all need to be aware of it, and if we don't do something, we're going to be left behind.
Yeah, so we've got about 150,000 jobs right now, roughly, that need to be filled. We have one of the highest labor force non-participation rates, meaning, able-bodied citizens just not participating in the workforce. And so when you look at those statistics, and then on, the flip side of that coin, when you talk about all the great policies you all have passed that, we've worked on together to attract the Hyundai Steel Plant, the Meta Data Center, CF Industries, Venture Global, Woodside. I mean, these billion-dollar projects with thousands of jobs. And then again, you flip that coin over and you see that we do have a high labor force non-participation rate. We have about 150,000 needs-based jobs we need to fill. Then the LED economic development side of that, and then the Workforce Commission side of that. I know y'all talked about the one door. Those bills become enormously important, because we can pass the good policies, right, that encourage and grow our homegrown businesses here, but also attract out-of-state companies that we haven't attracted in forever. But once we get them here and once we grow them here, we've got to have the workforce, the trained workforce, to make sure they stay and are able to succeed. And so how we do that is with One Door. How we do that is with the revamped quality jobs program that LED passed this year, to make sure that a quality job in a specific area is a real quality job, right? And so they realigned that to make sure that it's not just a number assigned to it, that it's actually tied to the rate of the average rate of the parish, because we know that a quality job in East Baton Rouge Parish may not be the same quality of job in Union Parish, right? And so this better aligns the needs of not only the parish and the community, but also accurately reflects the wage of that community. And so really, it better defines what a quality job is in that area. It makes it more achievable for the employer, more fair for the state, and better for everybody. And so we thought that was a win-win, and really kudos goes out to Secretary Bourgeois, LED, and all the folks that worked on that.
No, so much has been done. I feel like, when we were talking about, I do sit on civil law, and so we were talking about some of the things leading into the session and how that process works and looking at what needs to be done. We talked about that picture earlier, a picture on the site. So a lot of those people actually were also on insurance committee and on civil law, because we were just in those discussions early on. And I'm going to tell you, I've seen, obviously, you, Will, were there and other groups, but you hear the testimony after testimony of the concerns, whether it's the business owner, whether it's the trucker, whatever, insurance companies, attorneys, all the things. That's what I feel like you're watching legislation. That's how some of the best legislation is crafted, I do believe, is that you see you hear the concerns, you look at what's going on in other states. So you're not just coming up with things that have never been done, right? We're actually trying to fix issues within the law that maybe other states have already done that. And so hopefully that's the stuff that we'll begin to see shift for the businesses in our state. Would you say that definitely they're watching this? Your members are watching.
Yeah. So, I think the really big point you made there, and I can't say that enough, is, look, we didn't just throw a bunch of stuff against the wall to see what stuck, right? We looked at what was working in other states. Florida is the top, one of the top states in the country to do business. North Carolina, top state to do business. Georgia was seeing the kind of manufacturing projects that we haven't seen in decades. And so, we went out and we looked at those states. What are those states doing? They're in the Gulf of America like we are. They have the same hurricane and wind and flooding challenges that we do, yet they were seeing more success on attracting manufacturers than we were. Okay, so what are they doing on the insurance and legal reform front that we're not doing? And so we looked and we modeled what Florida was doing. Modified comparative fault was passed in Florida just a few years ago. They passed a medical expense transparency bill in Florida and Georgia just over the last couple of years. They looked at passing significant insurance reform to make their state significantly more competitive. And as a result, insurance companies are coming back to Florida. They've had rates that either flatlined or were reduced. And so, again, we know that everything we do may not result in successes overnight, but we can look at what other states have done, copy their playbook, and hopefully be successful as well.
Yeah.
That's something, I love the sports analogy there, right? Like when a coach is having a good play or whatnot, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to go do it, but you do have to tailor it to what makes you unique on that. You mentioned Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas there. We've been seeing that Southern Renaissance really happen for a while. And I know that's one of the reasons I kind of ran, was for that bold, positive change, was, look, get in there. I don't mind Jesus in the temple flipping the table over on its head if I need to get something done, and that's okay. And we're going to take a quick break, Will. When we come back, we're going to close out our mornings with Brian Haldane. We're joined by Will Green of Law B, and we'll close out the hour coming up next after this.
Good deal.
Like that.
Those are the pens we use at the office. Those are the best pens.
Wait, let me see that pen. You use it at your office.
You want it?
We have three.
Take it.
We have three companies that we represent that started using those pens.
Really?
The only thing is that if I'm talking and I'm like,
You'll do
fidgeting,
this?
well, let's see, I'll do this, and then I'll do this, and if this breaks, it's over.
It's over.
It doesn't work anymore.
Anything you want to hit on here at the end?
Oh, it is a good pen.
I'd love to ask you something about like just what's next. What are we missing, or what's our next big piece to hit?
Yeah, let's
Since you did win the body lottery, congrats on that.
I did. That's right. I mean, I think we can talk about. We haven't hit anything on tax. So I'm talking the inventory tax
Yeah.
that did not pass. That was disappointing.
Yes.
But the voters hopefully. So that was Ken Brass's bill. He had a good bill to we can kind of land the plane with it. Say, hey, look, just like this session, we're in. We should have started with tax, but now we're ending with it. And then just, if y'all mind, I'll just say like, hey, we do have our grassroots meetings coming up. Where we,
Yeah.
I mean,
This segment's a little shorter though. It'll be what?
So
This
5
segment's
minutes to
about
end it.
5 minutes. Yeah.
To end the show.
Yeah. So it's
so
a
we'll
little.
just talk tax and then
It's shorter than the last one.
go to lobby.
Convention that y'all oppose, of course.
Yeah, you and Jim, that was funny. And then you go to lobby.org and you can.
Just let y'all know, if y'all vote for this, it does not affect your lobby score. So even though Jim came to the table, you can vote for this. Still don't quite get his opposition, but I'll go meet with him in the fall.
That was
and figure
easy.
it out.
That was easy.
What?
Oh, we're gonna get hosed under that constitutional membership. It was like judges,
You're gonna-
local governments.
You're going to dominate. Because every parish gets a person to pick and vote on. So where do you think y'all would? What do you think if they don't have that endorsement of y'all?
Oh, it would have been.
Oh my God,
It'd have been.
you're nuts.
Local governments would have rewrote the inventory taxes.
No shot. No shot. See, I view it the other way. These other groups that are so negative about
Mhm.
themselves, like the sheriffs, are like, oh, we can't do that. We're all hard. Like, you're the sheriffs. Like, are you kidding me? Whatever, man. It's still gonna work the same. You can still white card. You can still come to the table like, I'm the sheriff.
That's right.
No one likes going to prison. That's a universal common fact.
No.
It's
What?
universal.
It's not?
No, I don't think anybody wants to go to prison.
Exactly. Thank you. That's
No,
why it is.
I think bad choice. Nobody wants to.
Except for that guy on Shawshank Redemption. He did like prison. Where did Tate say he dropped that stuff on?
Looks like he said he left a bag at his house for John to pick up.
Oh, it was his house. I thought he said some office or something.
I'm just hoping some of those larges are like bigger larges.
The mediums. I'm not going to be able to fit in the mediums.
Kevin O'Neill.
Or a
Shout out to
Sony.
Kevin O'Neill. I've known Kevin O'Neill for a long time. He's on Facebook making comments. Kevin O'Neill on Facebook. A little shout out.
Great show today, Emily and Dixon. Enjoyed your guest lineup as well. Thank you both for your good public service.
Darn right, Kev.
Great again.
I've worked with Kevin in movies.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's some like so like when I do this move like this, it's like just
It
a
hurts?
pain right here. It's like
Mm.
something like nothing hurts. It's so weird.
You got the carpal tunnel.
A tendon or something? I don't know. Is that what that is? You think?
This is carpal tunnel. But
No, it doesn't hurt down here. It's
repetition.
it's all back here.
No, you just
Great. Something else wrong with my 38-and-a-half-year-old body.
breaking down, man.
It happens.
Man.
It happens.
So normally when Brian's here, he'd be here. You'd be guest chair.
Yep.
here.
We're always sitting behind him. I don't think
Where's
I've
that
actually ever called in. I'm always
Yeah,
been
you've always
in
pretty much
studio.
been.
Yeah, pretty much.
I have no clue where he is. Do you know where he is?
What?
I have no idea where he is.
I just
I think he was going to Mississippi for his daughter.
Oh, that's right, because she's going to college,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
I just know last week he was like, "Oh, sorry, we'll talk next week and we'll recap the session." She's like, "Wait, no, I won't be here next week."
We're only filling in today, I guess.
Is he looking at schools?
Oh no, I think she decided.
Is she?
Yeah.
Because I know she was looking at Northwestern. I wonder where did she.
bring the closer in. You got to close it out strong. Bring in that deep Will voice for us here live on 7.3. You barely talked this morning.
I know. As soon as we start talking on this one, it'll be like. Go straight into it.
We're shutting it down. Mornings with Brian Haldane without Brian Haldane, Dixon McMakin, Emily Chenevert. Still joined by Lobby President, CEO Will Green. And Wills, we kind of finish up these final minutes of our Monday after session. You know, what is Lobby? What is your view? What do we still need to get done? What are the big topic issues out there for us as a state of Louisiana?
Yeah, so this was a tax and budget session, and so there, we did look at some trying to make our state more competitive on the tax front. Unfortunately, one of the outlier areas we still are in is we're one of 9 states that fully taxes inventory. So we have an inventory tax. One of the solutions will be on the ballot coming up, and it is a local opt-out. And so in Louisiana, we have a local inventory tax. It's a bad tax. It disincentivizes investment in Louisiana. And so years ago, the state came in and said, you know what? In return for that bad tax at the local level, we'll pay business back a credit for the tax that you pay to the local level. This year, coming up on the ballot, Representative Desatel passed a bill to allow the locals to opt out of that. Each individual parish can make that decision if it does pass at the ballot. That decision will not be made until 2027. Unfortunately, in 2026, C corporations will no longer receive that credit. So that credit hangs in the balance. That's the only kind of Band-Aid for that bad tax. And so what we asked was, while the locals have a decision to make on whether or not they want to keep taxing that or not, give business that same kind of runway while locals decide if they want to opt out. Unfortunately, that bill did not make it through the process, and so businesses right now only have that 1 year of uncertainty on whether or not they're going to have to pay that really uncompetitive tax. And so we hope to continue that discussion on whether or not we extend that same runway to the locals that we've extended to businesses. And so, big win getting it back in front of the ballot, but unfortunately, a loss not passing the extension of that credit to businesses at the state level. And so, again, more tax reform to do, more insurance reform to do, but all in all, I think we're continuing to move our state forward to announce that we are back open for business.
Yeah, and that's something I know that Ms. Susie, and the governor have all talked about, right? We want the world to know Louisiana is open for business. If you haven't thought about us before, why not? Like, what's your objection now to coming to Louisiana and getting to work and starting these projects? The Gulf of America is right there. The Mississippi River is right there.
Yep.
Energy, we have the energy production to handle this, and that's where we really can find ourselves competing for these great projects. That the Florida, the Georgias, the Carolinas, we got to know what our competitive advantage is and take advantage of those.
That's right.
Yeah, and what are some, if people are listening, Will, and they want to find out more about Lobby and what you're focused on and the policy points or things going on, how can they, find out more information about what's going on at Lobby?
Yeah, so you can go to lobby.org. That's where we have all of our events coming up, our regional rallies where we'll go out and celebrate with our members as well as some of the elected officials that voted in support of moving our state forward. Go to our events page there. You can find out all of our issues and our issue councils and get more information about how to be involved.
And yes, several of our reps, several of our senators served on your councils back in the day, and they bring that knowledge to the Capitol, which is great. So, Emily, we're done. This is it. It's over. Mornings without Brian Haldane.
It just
Finally over.
moved right along and getting through the last hour. A few more minutes left, and it's been a great show.
Thanks, Will,
and
for
thank
being
you
here.
For being in studio, Will.
Great, my pleasure.
In studio.
Go have a great day, Baton Rouge. Live it up. Bye.
Awesome. Yeah.
Hey,
Oh.
we had DeLucci on the radio. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Hey, you're not a baseball all-stater, Matt. Sorry about that. That's the fact.
All right.
No.
That was awesome.
It was fun. Thanks for being in.
Yeah.
Thanks, Facebook. We'll see you guys tomorrow.